Hello, friends. Sorry, I'm going to be the only one talking for just a couple minutes at least, because everybody else doesn't know how to be on time. Even though there was no time really given, but either way. Yeah, so we're going to talk about some stuff tonight, and that stuff is going to be Daniel. Daniel all night. Forgive the fans in the background. It's 84 degrees in this room. We're going to talk about Daniel. Daniel 70 weeks, Daniel 11, Daniel 12, pretty much anything Daniel in that realm. That's the plan, at least, supposing everybody shows up. If nobody shows up, I'm just going to delete this video, and it's not even going to be posted. But they're telling me that they're on their way, even though I told them 10:15 we were starting. 10:15, right meow. Said no later than 10:15, I'm recording. But I understand people have lives and things they have to do, blah, blah, blah. So we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. So until then, you get to hear me ramble on about, I don't even know what I'm going to ramble on about, but I told them I was going to start the video at 10:15. Let's see, what do I have written here? Well, I can tell you that Daniel 11, I believe, is a succession from a certain time frame all the way forward, from basically Nebuchadnezzar, Babylon, through Persia, and then a foreshadow of the Grecian king coming with the whole Gabriel thing. And then after that, it goes into Rome, as far as I can tell. But the Greek part of this prophecy in Daniel 11 is very complicated because it goes into this whole tirade of King of the North and King of the South. And anybody that's in the actual Discord channel, not that everybody's in the Discord, but anybody that's in the Discord, they would know. I already did a whole series, series of posts in the Discord way back in the day, going over all of Daniel 11, or at least most of it, point by point, verse by verse, history plus the verses combined to try and make sense of the whole thing. And seemingly everything fits. The only part was, well, actually, all of this was mostly thanks to Bruce Gore and a couple other people that helped piece things together. But Bruce left off in certain parts. He never actually did the last part of Daniel 11 into 12, as far as I know. And so therefore he left that whole part, like he just didn't say anything about it. He kind of ended it just before that. I would like to see him do something that covers those, but now I've discovered the reason why he possibly might not have covered that is because maybe he doesn't know, because there is another theory that says otherwise. It just says that Daniel isn't actually written way back before all of these events. When it says like King Nebuchadnezzar, all this stuff, he's actually pretending, and the whole thing, he's actually writing this like sometime in the 160s or something like that, BC. They'll say something like that, like Daniel's actually writing in there because there's a break in his writing where it seems like he's on point for every historical thing, and they think that okay, everything's on point, everything's on point, and then you get up to Antiochus Epiphanes, and everything is on point, and then you get to this one point, which is 1140, I believe, Daniel 1140, 1140 to 45, give or take a verse or two. And yeah, they're trying to say that this is a completely different. Doesn't make any sense. They're trying to say it doesn't work. It's not historically accurate. So because they're assuming that 40 through 45, and maybe even 39, 38, 37, I don't know, a couple of those verses are also questionable, but they're assuming that all these verses are continuing to talk about Antiochus Epiphanes, Antiochus 4. when actually, in my opinion, I don't think they're talking about any of these dudes at all. It's actually already skipped ahead by this point by a ridiculous amount of years, possibly. Some of those could be questions. That's what I'm hoping we're going to get into tonight if people would show up. But who knows? Antiochus Epiphanes is not the one though for the end game there. 40 to 45. That, in my opinion, is switched over at that point to the Roman Empire. And the Romans, well, there's a very good battle known as the Actium. It's the Romans versus, well, I guess you could say those Greek forces. But there's a switch that happens there. It 40 verse 40, when you read it, there's a switch. It already takes it from Antiochus Epiphanes from 39 possibly, which it might not be Antiochus, straight to 40. And 40 is definitely not Antiochus Epiphanes, even though that's what the secular people would say that it is. They'd say, oh, well, see, this is inaccurate because this is supposed to be Antiochus Epiphanes still, but it's not. It doesn't match up, so therefore your whole thing is wrong. Whereas I would say, wrong, you're wrong, because no, it's not about Antiochus Epiphanes at all. There's a jump there, just as the whole same thing that's been happening the entire time throughout the entirety of, oh, here we go. So everything that's been happening thus far has been happening, all right, now I lost my train of thought because somebody else came. And now he left again. That's terrible. It's terrible. He's taunting me. Oh, Antiochus Epiphanes. But yeah, he was the guy that was supposed to do the thing for the secular people, but he didn't, because that's not what the prophecy was about. It didn't at a certain point have anything to do with Antiochus anymore. I will admit that up until a certain point, it is definitely talking about Antiochus, but there's a point where it does what it's always been doing throughout the whole chapter ever since Alexander's time, and it's just chopping it up, king of the north, king of the south, that kind of thing. So it's going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and then there's just a bigger gap at the end, so that it stretches from either Antiochus Epiphanes straight to Caesar Augustus, or there could possibly be a little transition in there. Like I said, there's leeway, those couple verses, 36, 37, 38, 39. They could be construed for either party. But yeah, I don't know. I wonder where Rob went. Where did he go? I'm getting tired of talking to myself. I have to have this stuff written down so I can just keep going forever and ever. I mean, I only threatened them with this because I wanted to make a point, but I don't really have anything to say aside from, I mean, I do, but I need them to make points. If they don't make points, I can't make counterpoints, so there's no point. If that makes sense. Probably doesn't. But either way, these points that these secular people try to make are not Antiochus Epiphanes. They'll try to say that they are Antiochus IV Epiphanes, but they're not. They're actually just skipping ahead to the Roman emperors. And one of these verses is talking about they'll come with a whirlwind and many ships. This is the famous Battle of Actium, which is already fast forwarding to the battle between Caesar Octavian, otherwise known as Augustus, versus Mark Antony and Cleopatra. Right. So this is the Battle of Actium. That's in there. That's one of those verses. And then it also says that right after that, the king of the whatever, the north, will come and take all the treasures of the king of the south. That's true, because Cleopatra and Mark Antony killed themselves, and guess who took over all of their kingdoms? Oh, that's right. It was your boy. That's right. Octavian, aka Caesar Augustus, who is one of, actually the greatest, as far as I can tell, the greatest Caesar of all time. He's the greatest one. He's the biggest dude. And he's also the one who reigned the longest, if you go with the Ezra counting of the kings. That's another story for another day, though. Or maybe it's not, because the 10 kings might actually come up tonight. The 10 kings, you know, there are, what is it? The 7 hills or 7 heads or whatever. They're 10 kings. They're also whatever, all that jazz. Rob and I and a couple others have been trying to work these kinds of things out for the longest time. We're trying to figure out who the kings are, who's what. It's a little hard, but you know, I think if we're all on the same page, we should be able to come to a conclusion together. But so far, nobody's on the same page because, well, I don't know. Everybody just wants to be right. Nobody's willing to admit defeat. I don't know. Is it me? Is it him? Is it them? You guys tell us in the comments. I don't know. Only reason I make these videos is because we're trying to find the truth. I don't really care otherwise. So, you know, as you see at the moment, the channel's not monetized. I don't ask for any Patreons or anything like that. Like, I don't care. I just want the truth. So anybody out there who's listening to this, you want to join us, you can. You can be on this very hangout. You could be in the Discord. Sandy was one of those people. She was just a commenter one time, and now here she is. I mean, I'm sure we have a couple others just like that too. And now I'm really running out of things to talk about. Jeez, these guys are taking forever. My goodness, I can't leave it dead air. What do I do? I'm just gonna have to like read some verses or something. Sheesh. Let's see, what can I find? I guess we're gonna just see if we can find some Daniel or something. Matthew, Luke, no, Daniel, Job, Ezekiel. There we go. Some Daniel, but we need some Daniel at the end, Daniel. Oh, that's another thing that'll no doubt come up tonight, maybe, is the whole Gabriel Michael thing. Who is this Gabriel person? Who is it? Is it a person? Is it an angel? It gets into other topics, but yeah. Person or angel? I mean, a lot of people would say, like, the one thing I just watched, they said, like, oh, it's some sort of spiritual angel or something that's like over the kingdom. To me, that doesn't make sense because I mean, it's man. That's the reason why the flood, not because angel. Because man does this, not angels. Okay, whether it's a supernatural angel or a human angel, it doesn't matter. Dude brings the message, and point is, the angel is withstood or held up, something like that, by the Prince of Persia. A lot of people will take this to say, like, oh, well, that means that like there was some sort of angelic force had to be behind that king stopping it, because there's no way that Gabriel, this archangel, can be stopped by a mere man. But it's like, not at the same time, like, why do you say all that? Because like, for me, it's like the dude was a dude, a well-important dude, a well-known dude, and he was trying to come and give Daniel a message, but he couldn't do it because the Prince of Persia, the king, the prince withstood him, basically held him up for a certain amount of time. So he was like trying to come over to see the guy to tell him the message, but he couldn't. He was delayed because this guy kept hassling him and delaying him and preventing him from coming. It doesn't in any way, shape, or form necessarily mean that there was any kind of military action or anything like that. So I think that, you know, when it says things like, and he was caused to fly, doesn't mean that he's actually flying because he's an actual angel. but he's like a literal supernatural angel, which I'm not saying that they don't exist. I don't think flying in this instance means that he's literally flying like a plane in the sky or a bird. I think flying in this means like cause to fly swiftly. It means like, hey, I came to see you. Like I would have been here sooner, is what he's saying. But the Prince of Persia, he held me up like really good. And like I would love to stay and chit chat with you, but I actually have to be going really quick. Being in swift flight, I have to leave again. So just so you know, I have to go again really quickly. I have to be out again because as soon as I leave, the Prince of Grecia comes. See? So what is he telling him? He's saying there's going to be a transition between the two kingdoms, going from Persia to Greece. And he's the messenger in between. But this is just, it could be a supernatural angel. I don't have a problem with that. It could be a natural man who's a prophet or a priest. Some people have problems with that, but why not? I mean, who's to say? They're just assuming that it's some sort of supernatural power, because how could you stop this, what they assume to be an angel, Gabriel? But whoever said Gabriel was an angel? Y'all made that up. Or did you? I don't know. That's what I need. I could just sit here and talk to myself all day long, I guess. But it's not going to be very fruitful. I'm running out of things to talk about. I guess I haven't really read anything yet. Let's see. Oh, comforted by the angel. Okay. I'm reading the invasion and tyranny of the Romans is what it says for 11 at the end. That's very interesting in the King James notes, because that's exactly what I thought from 30 on. But what I was told was that from 39 all the way back to 3 of Daniel 11 is historically accurate. But everything from 40 to 45, which is the last verse, is not accurate historically. And I wonder why that would be. That's one of the things I'm going to prove tonight. Maybe I'll do it beforehand, before anybody even gets here. But basically, it goes something like this. Verse 40 has nothing to do with the person in verse 39 or 38 or 37 necessarily. But some of them probably do. But the whole time we've been reading these chapters up until, actually 11, just 11, not even, it's just 11. The whole way through at least 11, it's working your way through a history, and it bounces all throughout history, giving you little tidbits of each little historical fact, so you can work your way through who's the king of the north and who's the king of the south. But then towards the end here, they get all mishmashed because they think that all the rest of these final verses are all still Antiochus Epiphanes. But no, I say if you keep continuing with the tradition of what the chapter's been doing, it continues on skipping. And it skips straight on to Caesar Augustus. There could be somebody right in between there, but that's whatever. It doesn't really matter. Because Caesar Augustus is the one in the verse here, which says, and at the time of the end shall the king of this is what they say is false, by the way, for Antiochus, which is true. It is false. Antiochus did not do this. But it says, at the time of the end shall the king of the south, who at the time, in my opinion, is Cleopatra and Mark Antony by this time, shall push at him, and the king of the north shall come against him like a whirlwind with chariots and horsemen and many ships, important ships. And he shall enter into the countries and shall overflow and pass over. He shall enter, this is verse 41, he shall enter also into the glorious land, and many countries shall be overthrown, but those shall escape out of his hand, even Edom, Moab, and the chief of the children of Ammon. Now this is exactly 100% the person I was talking about. This is not Antiochus Epiphanes, but this is Caesar Augustus, otherwise known as Octavian. And this is the Battle of Actium that's going on right here in this verse. Or verses. This is what's being talked about. The ships, that's Actium. And then after that, here it says, he will do all this stuff, and then it says, he will enter into the glorious land. Yes, this is the king of the north, not the king of the south. This is Octavian, or somebody after him, because again, it skips all around. It just jumps from one guy to the other without telling you. And many countries shall be overthrown, but okay, so that's all still Octavian, the Edom and Moab, right? So he shall stretch forth his hand upon the countries, and the land of Egypt shall not escape. So 42, I would say, is still talking about Octavian Caesar Augustus, because that's true. He did take Egypt eventually, and he did skip over all those other countries I talked about. He didn't touch them, but he did take Egypt because Mark Antony and Cleopatra, as you know, killed themselves via suicide. Then it says, but he shall have power over the treasures of gold, of silver, and all of the precious things of Egypt. It's still Octavian, but it could also be applied to later, but I'm pretty sure this is still Octavian. And then the skip comes. And and over all the precious things of Egypt, and the Libyans and the Ethiopians shall be at his steps. True. When he took that back, when he took Egypt, yeah, all those dudes are right at his footsteps, for sure. Then it says, verse 44, but tidings out of the east and out of the north. Now, this is one of the things we have to look into when we're going to be talking tonight. Shall trouble him, and therefore he shall go forth with great fury and destroy and utterly make way many. Now, that could still be Octavian, or it could be any of the other emperors, because it's going to skip around in some of these verses. But right here is the verse that is the key. And he shall plant the tabernacles of his palace between the seas in the glorious holy mountain. So there's very many versions that say different words. You have to read them all to get the grasp. Yet he shall come to his end, and none shall help him. But this is Nero, because he did. He planted his tents, his palatial palace tents, whatever you want to say, in the middle, in between. He didn't plant them in Jerusalem on the Holy Mount. He planted them between the two. So in between the sea and in between the Holy Mount, he planted his tabernacles, and he tried to take over Jerusalem and besiege it. This is the whole siege of Jerusalem. However, as it says here in verse 45, yet he shall come to his end, which is, again, all these verses that I just read, 40 through 45, have nothing to do with Nero, with Antiochus. They all are about, this one right here, 45, is about Nero. Nothing is about Antiochus. Oh, what's up, bro? You came to me talking to myself on a hangout with myself. How's it going? You there, brother? Okay. Everybody just wants to leave tonight. That's cool. Oh well, that's what happens. But anyway, it says in verse 45, and he shall plant the tabernacles of his palace between the seas in the glorious holy mountain, which sometimes says, yeah, I can't even read that. The light of holiness. He shall come to his end, none shall help him. Well, Nero is the one person in history that nobody helped. Like, he was even trying to ask people to like help him kill himself, and they even told him, no, kill your own self. We're not going to help you. This is like a well-known fact about Nero, that nobody would help him. And it says, if you skip from chapter 11 to chapter 12, because there is no actual chapter gaps in the first place, and at this time shall Michael stand up, the great prince which standeth for thy children and thy people. And I would say Michael is Jesus, but it could be the high priest. It could be I'm open to whatever. But at this time, at what time? Not the time of the end, like they would like to tell you, going all the way back up to where he said the time of the end. But no, it's verse 45, the verse right before it, where it says, and he shall plant the tabernacle. At this time, when dude man offs himself, at this time is when he will set up the kingdom. Not at the time of the end. I mean, it's all the time of the end, but the point is, if you watch these videos and you watch this and you go through the scriptures, you should not be able to mess this up. Like, I can see how these people make these mistakes, but I can't help them if they're not even going to show up. They're not going to talk about it. I don't know. Sheesh. I mean, I don't even know how long I've been sitting here talking to myself. I might have to just go ahead and end it. It says, and at that time shall Michael stand up. Yeah, at what time? The time we were just talking about. Just like when we're talking Genesis. And also after that. Also after that means not after the flood, because you don't even know that there's going to be a flood yet. Also after that means whatever we were just talking about 5 seconds before we were just talking. Same difference. There should be a time of trouble, which was never since there was a nation, even to the same time. All right, so this is going to be something real bad. And this is at that time when he shall set up. See? I mean, I could see totally how this could be Nero. I'm open to it being somebody after Nero, but somebody has to show me. And I do think that there's a possibility that certain texts, not Daniel per se, but Revelation, I think Revelation could go past 70 AD and be talking about other things in addition to that. But as for Daniel, I think that Daniel pretty much ends with the time of the end, and the end being the time of the end of the covenant, of the old covenant, which was the sacking of the temple in Jerusalem in 70 AD. But yeah, I mean, it says right here, oh, Daniel, shut up the words, seal them up. They're not for you. They're for later. And he told them all the times. Many shall be purified, made white and tried. Okay, that's Maccabee stuff. The wicked shall do wickedly. Well, the wicked shall understand, but the wise shall understand. Some of the wise even die, according to the texts. And from the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away. See, now that sounds like Sam Antiochus Epiphanes. And the abomination that maketh desolate be set up shall be this many days. Now that might be a reference back to Antiochus Epiphanes, because Antiochus Epiphanes was responsible for the first, at least, desolation of abominations, if there's more than one, which there could be more than one. First one was he did the thing where he either put an altar over top of the original one, making it impossible for them to make reasonable sacrifices, or I think there's they also built a fortress right next to the temple. So, that's constantly right over there, according to Josephus. There's a couple things that you could consider. I mean, what does the word desolate mean? If I take you to a desolate place, where am I taking you? I'm taking you to some place where there's nothing. It's pretty much nothing. It's all trash. It's garbage. There's nothing there. It's desolate. Nobody's there. It's a desolation. So how does this abomination that's set up make desolate? Well, if the true people that live there and do all the things are taken over by some other people, and they put a pagan altar over your altar to your God, and you can't no longer keep the Sabbath or do the sacrifices or whatever, your whole thing, your whole city, your whole thing is going to go desolate, because nobody's going to do it anymore. It doesn't have to be army, just saying. I don't know. All right, let's see. Yeah, blah blah blah. They make it desolate. So blah, blah, blah. For 290 days, I'm not sure what to make about all the days. But basically, he tells Daniel to go your way, and that's the end of the book. But As far as I can tell, it leaves off in 45 at Nero's death. 45 is Nero's death, in my opinion, because none shall help him. He's the only dude that I know of in all of history that nobody was even like. Even Antiochus Epiphanes, like, come on, it doesn't make a point to say that like nobody wanted to help him. Like Nero was such a baddie failure, or whatever, that like not even the people that he asked, according to what I heard, he said, help kill me or whatever, and they said no, like kill yourself, like we're not helping you. No, he's the only one that fits that, and he did. He pitched his tents between the sea and the glorious holy mountain, not on it, but between. Huge difference. And man, this topic was supposed to be talked about by a couple of us, but I don't know where everybody is, man. Just gonna give up in a couple minutes because I've been talking since it's been like a half an hour now. I've been sitting here talking all by myself. Here, I'm gonna be quiet for a couple seconds. I'm gonna try and muster up some folks. Be right back. I'm tired of this nonsense. Otherwise, I'm gonna end it. Okay, well, I messaged the peeps. Hopefully, they somebody joins in to give me something to talk about. At least somebody to argue with me or something. Sheesh. Talking to yourself is harder than it sounds. Harder than you think. I don't even have anything to think about. I already got to the end of the chapter. Wow, really? Okay, buddy. All right, we're gonna give it a couple more minutes. Sorry, folks, I'm trying. I don't know what's going on. The person that wanted this doesn't want to come now, which is fine. Just kind of puzzled. The topic they wanted, I made it all happen, and now they're not coming. So whatever. Maybe I won't even post this. If I do, whatever. I don't even know. Well, oh my goodness. Maybe. Couple more minutes, folks. I'll give it a couple more minutes. If not, I mean, you can just skip by all this later. So, sorry. All right, looks like I'm just gonna end it here because nobody wants to come. I don't know. I mean, I could just let it keep running forever and ever and just let it be silent for eternity. I don't even know what to do right now. Nobody wants to come. People that wanted it don't want to come. Do I even release this video? I don't even know. Is it even worth all that shit I just said? I don't even know. People said they would be here, not just the one. All right, well, I guess we're gonna find out right now. If the person here doesn't come on here, I guess I'm just gonna go ahead and maybe end it, unless I find another person right quick to join me, because this here talking by myself is not really working too well. I'm not liking this talking to myself stuff. I'm not getting challenged on anything or anything. It's no fun. Where are all the people telling me that I'm wrong and I'm stupid and I'm an idiot? Come on, where are they? They're nowhere to be found. Guess that means I win. Surely you guys don't want me to win. You just made a coffee, then get in here. Oh, come on, buddy, get in here. Come on. I love talking to myself. See, look, you're all gonna thumb down this to show your disgust for all the people that didn't show up right now. Wait, didn't Lou Bell say that she was gonna be here tonight or something, or soon, because she was like coming back to Chinadia or wherever she lives? See, I can't ask anybody because there's nobody here. It's no fun. Oh my goodness. Do I ask the audience? What do we do? Do I ask a silly question? Like, who is the king of the north and who is the king of the south? Because obviously it changes over time. Yeah, see, he was trying to show some stuff about Hadrian. Maybe. Uh, Waiting for you, my precious. Don't make me do it. Don't make me do the Smeagol voice, my precious. Smooth girl. Smooth girl. Precious of trust. Smooth girl. Sorry. Sorry. You have to be retarded when you're just talking to yourself. I mean, I don't know what I'm gonna do here. It's ridiculous. First time I've ever had this problem with the person here. Is it? Maybe the flat Earth gave me this problem one time. All right, I'm gonna be right back. I'm gonna try to get people still. Find out. I'm not gonna give up yet. So I will. Oh. Oh. Ah. Doesn't want to come because he doesn't want to repeat himself. Oh my goodness. All right, I'm gonna try and get somebody else. We'll see. I'm probably wasting my time. Just wasting all my time with all of these stupid hangouts that don't mean anything to anybody because they don't even listen to them. Just kidding. There's like 3 of you that actually listen to the hangout, so I love you. I appreciate you. But everybody else, you're wasting my time. And I do know, yes, that some of you do appreciate these videos and you want them to continue. That's the reason I make it. Still, if there's only one of you, this is why I still do it. Can't force them though, you know what I'm saying? They're not into it for the night, I can't force them. I'm gonna try and get one more person though. I'm sure you know who I'm gonna try and get. We'll see. It's gonna turn into a completely different night though. Maybe.
All right. Well, you can just give me your view and I can just be I can just ask some questions.
There you are. Hello.
Mm-hmm. Hello.
Are you there? You talking to me?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, I say you could just go ahead and give your opinion and view, and then maybe I could
already
just.
did. That's what they've been listening to for the last 45 minutes. Is me talking to myself.
Oh, well, I'll have to go listen to it.
And then I asked a certain somebody to join, and they declined. So now I have to find somebody else to talk to. Hence, enter you. Welcome. I'm glad you came to join me, so I'm not just sitting here like a maniac talking to myself all night. Thank you. Even if you shoot everything that I said down, amen. Thank you for coming. At least you came and told me to go F off, right?
I think Rob is not wanting to just have a recorded one-on-one, or I don't know. Maybe he didn't think I was really coming.
All right, now that you disclosed the person, all right.
I can't really participate because I did not go watch the videos that you all posted.
It doesn't matter.
But I was going to listen.
He basically told me that the reason that he didn't want to come on right now is because he doesn't want to repeat himself in what he said in the videos.
Right, exactly. We get tired of repeating
ourselves. You don't want to repeat yourself even one time because we're bringing, like, the whole point of tonight was because he wanted it, man.
Well, you know what is one certain thing about life is it's always changing.
Wasted a whole night on garbage.
It's not wasted.
I shouldn't even post this stupid video, but I'm going to because I sat here for 45 minutes talking to myself, which is impressive.
Are you still recording?
How I even had enough things to talk about, or how I even remembered what the hell I was trying to talk about, but I did.
Are we recording now?
Absolutely. We started recording. That's it. They all came, a couple people came in and they immediately left because it was already recording. But I clearly said that I was going to start the recording by no later than 10:15. What time is it? It's 11:04. Of course, I started recording at precisely 10, well, a little bit before maybe.
Well, who came on?
10:14. 15. Rob, you, and Chris. And you all left within seconds of, well, actually, you were on the longest because you said you were going to come back.
Well, if you're done recording, whatever you wanted to record.
No, we're not recording. Yeah, no, we're recording still. You're going to record now your version.
What? I don't even know what. I didn't even study the topic. Here's what I'll say.
You can say whatever you
Daniel,
want because nobody else came. So that's the beauty. You can say whatever you want.
look,
The
this
topic doesn't
this
matter
is
anymore. The
this is
topic
just
does not matter.
well, I seen something about Daniel. I know like chapter 11, but this is
Go
what
for it. Say whatever you want. Doesn't matter. Free talk.
this
Free floor.
this is what I was thinking last night. I was like, I haven't researched it. Okay, it was just a thought. And I thought, now, what are these seven? What is this scroll that Jesus has? You know, right? Okay, a scroll is a book, it's the Bible. Is it a particular scroll? I'm thinking to myself, is it a particular book of the Bible? And then, of course, Daniel comes to mind because, you know, it's like an end times thing. And I was like, wait, there's seven seals, because the book is sealed. And then it came to my mind, well, that's what he told Daniel, to seal up the words of this, seal the words up until the time of the end. And we know that when Christ came, it's the time of the end. Okay, so let me just go there. So I thought, well, I'm going to go to Daniel. What is it? Chapter 7. Oops. Daniel 7.
Right. And that doesn't have anything to do with Eskimos, right?
Daniel 7. And look, and I got this idea because of when I studied and tried to figure out what are these seven spirits of God, because, you know, a year or so ago, I was about ready to rip out the book of Revelation as a spurious book, and the YouTuber guy that I was leading me down that path, and I was like trying desperately to confirm the book of Revelation, brought this up, and he did not like the fact that there were seven spirits of God. There's only one spirit, right? And I'm like, okay, so
right, the seven spirits, which are the churches, right?
No, these, well, these are different. Yeah,
okay.
and it's actually, and I actually found the seven spirits of God. I think it was in Isaiah, and it's basically the seven characteristics of God. And I was like, well, there you go. And I tried to share it with him, but so, you know, anyway, so I was like, so it was a verse in Isaiah, and it was boom, 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 these characteristics of God. And I was like, well, there it is. The sevenfold spirit of God. It's manifested in seven, you know, the number of completion. It's a whole. We can't say there's seven rainbows in the sky. Do we say there's seven different rainbows, a red, orange, yellow, blue, green, violet, purple, blue, you know? No, we call it one rainbow. So there's seven aspects to the spirit of God. They're listed. So I thought, well, I'm going to go to Daniel, and let's see. I thought, well, let me go to that part. Where is it? Isn't it in Daniel 7? But the judgment sit, should be given the people and saints. Do 3 kings. Okay, this is the night visions. Wait. Okay, I'm gonna have to search it by words. Okay, sorry. It's Daniel 9, the 70 weeks. Okay, the 70 weeks. Now listen and count on your finger, because he says, seal up the vision. He says that this, seal this book up, right? Seal this up, the vision or whatever that he tells him, until the time of the end, because that's when it will be what? Revealed, aka unsealed. So here it is. 70 weeks are determined upon thy people and upon thy holy city to, now let's count them on our fingers, finish the transgression, 1, to make an end of sins, that's 2, and to make reconciliation for iniquity, that's 3, and to bring in everlasting righteousness, that's 4, and to seal up the vision, that's 5, and the
Hello.
prophecy, that's 6, and to anoint the most holy, that's 7. And I was like, oh, wow. So that's where I'm at with that. Now what I would study out is to take these 7 seals that I think I found, and then I would try to go through the seals and see if I can figure out the symbology and how it relates to these 7 things that was determined to take place and did. So preterism, thank you very much. 70 weeks, it's all fulfilled. I mean, I would never have even come to think these kind of thoughts, to think this way, if it wasn't for
I'm so sorry
preterism.
if I didn't speak to you that one day. I should have never done that. It was a mistake, right? I should have never typed to you that day, that comment on that YouTube.
Hey, if it wasn't you,
I
then
should have never done it, right? It would
I
be
don't know
better
where.
if I never talked it, right? I never said it.
Why are
No?
you saying that? Stop it.
No, just but no, look. So I get it. Like, y'all
Because
don't want to
my
come on
my
here and
thing that
one-on-one. I get it.
nobody wants to join me in this, and it really,
Nobody
it's like,
wants to
come
join
on,
me.
look,
Nobody even
this
comes
is good.
on.
This is good
Everyone-
stuff. This is good stuff. This is good stuff. And
That's when we
doesn't
come up with the
it doesn't
best good stuff, is when we're few, not many.
I
Right?
know, but I have to keep like going over this, like figuring out myself, and it would be so helpful if other people would just be
Yes.
willing to look at the book of Revelation as a book of symbols, because it says that it is, and stop trying to equate it to literal wars, literal historical, physical, earthly events that
Right.
happen.
And it's
Yes,
gonna
Hey,
it's
Say,
gonna
can I ask you a
right.
question?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Go.
With what you just said, with the book of Revelation being symbols, what is it symbols of?
okay.
Because the concept of symbolism is that the thing is symbolic, but it's symbolic of something tangibly,
Well, okay.
real.
I could say the throne. When John sees a vision of the throne, I guess like there's a rainbow around the throne, and it's the color of emerald. And there's a sardius stone and a jasper stone, which when you go back and you look in the Old Testament and you see, and you start looking at the patterns, and the meanings of the stones, and what they were. You come up with the spiritual interpretation of the literal thing they used to do. Like the literal temple was a literal temple, right? God told Moses, build it exactly like this. Why? Because it was a foreshadow, a physical foreshadowing of the real thing that was to come, the true thing, right? Like I have to find words like reality is reality. That these things take place on the earth, but they're a shadow, and they don't contain Jesus, because he hadn't yet been revealed, right? He hadn't been sent, because we know from the scriptures that Jesus is the revelation of the word of God. He came to reveal his Father's will. And we also know from the New Testament, it says that there still remains a veil. It says to this day, a veil remains over like the books of Moses, right? Or basically over the Old Testament writings, that they lacked an understanding, because what we have is a rainbow around the throne. And in the beginning of the book, we know God made a promise to Noah, and he said, I will never again destroy the earth, or not the earth, but man from the face of the earth, and cause a flood. And here's my sign. And I'm going to put it in the sky. It's a rainbow.
So, right, but it's symbolic of something
It's yes,
real.
it's symbolic. It's not. We shouldn't think of a physical, literal throne in heaven. We shouldn't think there's a literal chair sitting up there with Jesus sitting on it. We shouldn't think that there's a literal green rainbow around this throne, that there's some literal thing that looks like a lamb who was slain. No, this is for our understanding. This is, he says it's, there was one like unto a lamb. It's because he's not a lamb anymore. He was crowned. He was crowned anyway. But I mean, like he did that role. I guess that's what makes me kind of a modalist. But so here's what I seen about AD 70 and how Jesus came again in the clouds. And like Zach and Andrew argue, and other preterists, full preterists would say that he came in the clouds, invisibly in the clouds, 40 years later to finish, destroying the temple, the literal physical temple, and have war via the Roman army and wipe out the people and all of this. And my argument is, no, he didn't. And I said, here's what I found studying it out was when he comes on the clouds. I think it's in Titus. Titus tells us we're the clouds. We are clouds. The clouds are people in the Bible. So this is the symbology that we have to let the Bible interpret the Bible. And he also talks about clouds. He talks about those who don't believe the word of God. They don't have eyes to see. And that they are clouds without rain. They're dried up, withered.
What is a cloud without rain? Like, come on now.
A cloud. I'll tell you. Yeah. when do you see a rainbow?
Oh, I see clouds without rain. Those are called chemtrails. No, I'm just kidding.
When you don't see a rainbow in the sky unless there's clouds. And the reason for that.
Actually, wait, whoa. Because there's clouds? What?
Yeah.
You mean
you're
water?
You're not going to see a rainbow in the sky on a
unless there's water, like a rain. There's got to be water.
I wasn't done. But yeah, so unless there's clouds, and what's in the clouds is water. And water, and this is what I've told people before, like if God is invisible and God is light, but no one has ever seen the Father except the Son, right? So this is literally true. We cannot see white light. Our eyes cannot perceive it because we're in a physical realm. We cannot see white light. The way we have to see light is it has to be refracted. And through this process of refraction, which is done through the rain, the water that's in the clouds, and when it gets bent or refracted, we see a rainbow appear. And that rainbow is an expression of the white light that was invisible. And so now we can see the visible rainbow, and it's 7 colors in the rainbow. Roy G. Biv, right? It's the 7 colors, and it's 7 is the number of completion. So there is no other primary colors. We can't even dream one up. Like 7 is it. We can't imagine another primary color. Like the 7 colors of the rainbow are an exact representation of the white light. It is white light. It's white light that's been refracted so that our physical earthly eyes can actually see it. And this is why, then this is the analogy of the throne of God, and that Jesus, when he came, it says he is the exact representation of the Father. So this is how we can kind of bend our mind around, how can God be one? How can Jesus be on earth and yet still be one with the Father? It's kind of as like saying, how can a rainbow that has 7 colors still be invisible white light? Okay, that's the mystery of all of this. And this is how God tries to explain it so that we can kind of understand that God is, we're not going to see the face of God. God himself is invisible. No man has ever seen the Father. No man has ever heard the Father except the Son who came down from the Father. He has revealed him. And in his face, in the face of Jesus, right? And the knowledge of the glory of God is in the face of Jesus Christ. He is that glory, literally. He is the physical, fleshly manifested glory of God on earth, just like a rainbow. So when we're looking at the book of Revelation, we have to do the same thing throughout the whole book. And I don't know how to do it. I get little bits and pieces, and it takes a long time, but
I
everybody
don't
just
think there was a user
poo-poos.
manual anywhere. So,
Yeah, but there is. It's the first 2 verses.
Oh.
The user manual, he tells you this is the revelation of the war in AD 70. No, it's not. It's not it's not called the revelation of the coming of God in AD 70.
Oh,
It's not
where's
called the
Andrew?
revelation. It's not the revelation of war on earth and how it all played out. It is the revelation of Jesus Christ. So everything we see in there, we have to stop seeing the physical things, right? We have to stop wanting to have a physical place that we go to in heaven. Nothing really says that. Nothing says we're going to go to, a physical place. It says we will be with him and we will be like him.
Red Rose, what were you saying? I think you tried to say something. Maybe not. Or not. No, you weren't trying to say anything? Cool.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah. I thought you sounded like you was trying to say something. Maybe we were just talking to somebody else.
Oh, sorry. Let me mute myself.
No, it's okay. No, I just didn't know if you were trying to say something or not.
Yeah.
Earlier, what all I was saying, Sandy, is you said I felt, and I only caught a part of what you're saying, so maybe I misunderstood, but I felt like you were saying that when you express this thought that revelation is symbolic, that you feel like people don't get what you're saying. And all I was trying to say is I do agree that it's symbolic, but the whole point of symbolism is to make something real. Oh, she left. I offended her.
No, you're good. Keep going. Keep explaining. It's recorded, so keep going.
Yeah, that's
Pretend
what I
like
was
you're
thinking.
telling me. Pretend like you're telling me.
Feel like that's what symbolism is for, to explain something real. So even though, yes, it is a book of symbols, those symbols represent something real that's happening on earth.
Right. Yeah, I can agree with that. I mean, she'll be back, no doubt. She just got disconnected, I'm sure. Like, I don't see any reason why she would have left. But symbolism, yeah, I do agree that I do concur that the book of Revelation is or can be highly symbolic. But again, yeah, if we can't all agree as a collective as to what the symbols mean, right? Like, what are we doing?
Mm-hmm.
Then we're divided, we are conquered. Well, that's easy. What's the easiest way to divide us? Well, just tell us some ridiculous stuff and have us fight for it for the rest of eternity. Easy. Right? We got futurists and we got preterists. Is that not a division? Is it?
True. Well, yeah, it's two different.
They're all divisions. Oh, we got these guys and those guys, these guys and these guys, these guys and those guys. We got evolutionists and blah blah blah. It doesn't matter. That it's all divisions. It's all divide and conquer. All of it, in my opinion, at least. It's all just tactics to divide us. I mean, why can't we just all agree on simple things that are true? Why do we have to be like, well, my thing is right and your thing is wrong? I mean, I know that's like in our nature. It's like, no, wait, hold on. That's wrong, right? We're all going to do it. We've all done it. I do it all the time, right?
Yeah, I think it's in our nature, like you said. Danny said headphones.
Yeah.
So she'll probably be back.
Okay. Yeah, she should be back, hopefully. And
so she's still a preterist, or I couldn't understand. I couldn't fully understand what she was doing.
So basically, she's kind of like on the same page I am, but not really. She's taking her own tangent. So she is, I would say, a partial preterist. She's not purple. That's why I just gave you a green title. I'm hoping that's what you wanted, because I'm assuming you're the same thing as John, a historicist. So I just made you the same color as him because you've been white the whole time, which she's white. So if you're white, you're Christ-centered, which is different. So, or you don't have any designation at all. So I changed you.
As a historicist.
I changed you to a historicist, so you and John are historicists. You're green, and purples, as you know, on the Discord are purple. They're the preterists, full preterists. Partials are blue. Blah 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 blah. I tried to make it so that it's easy for you to tell who's who. You know, if we had a futurist, they'd be like yellow or orange or something. It's just a color coding so that everybody can quickly tell who's who. You know, you don't have to ask them like, oh, hey, hi on the chat. Like, what do you believe? You just already know roughly, not exactly, but roughly, right, what they are. Like if you see a red person on there, that's a Israel only. We only have one of those. Troy, that's you, buddy. Do you still listen? He might still listen. He's in there. He's in the Discord. He doesn't like to join us in the voices, but he does join us on the Discord for sure.
Mhm. Gotcha. Yeah, I saw some new
People-
names on new to me.
New names? Who's a new name to you?
I'll have to go and see here.
Go ahead, go through the whole thing. I can tell you whether I can tell you whether or not they'll ever come back again or not.
What chat was really active the other day?
Oh, it was probably, but it's all the usual people. It's like Zach and Andrew. Like
Wasn't it Zach and Andrew? It was
somebody else? Is there a chat I missed? Oh dear.
it was someone else. Let me see if I can find it. I always get
Was it-
notifications on my phone, but I don't always look at it. Let's see.
What color? Do you remember what color their name was?
No, it was a guy, I think.
Well,
I
a
don't
guy,
remember.
but the color matters more than.
Yeah, no, I don't remember his.
They might not have had a color. Some people don't have anything assigned, like you didn't until earlier today. And I was like, she should be green because she's pretty much what John is. So I'm assuming she's green. So I made you green.
Oh, Shematore 66.
Oh, Shimator. Okay. He's an oldie but goldie, but a new person. So
Oh, but Goldie, him, and it was
yeah.
one
So
other-
basically, so Shimator, whatever. That person, God bless. I know you're listening to me, buddy. Haha, and your mom's. Shout out. But yeah, these guys have been listening to me for a while, ever since they were, at least one of them, Shimator himself, was part of our Flat Earth group. I'm pretty sure, like back when my channel was Flat Earth. So he goes all the way back to then. But or no, actually no, he said no, that's a different person. He said that they found our channel by accident because his mom's was like looking, or he was looking for something, and they found us by accident and they liked it, and so yeah, there they are. So sorry, nothing to do with Flat Earth necessarily. That was a different person.
It's all good.
But Shimator, he liked the channel. He was there. And I invited him on because usually when people leave comments on the YouTube channel and they, are seemingly not insane, I go ahead and give them an invite if they want to join. But if they don't want to join, that's fine. I mean, half the people I found were on YouTube. Sandy being one of them, if she ever comes back. But basically, I left her a comment on some random video, and I kind of somewhat disrespected her, but not really. But it made her join, right? It made her like, I don't know. I irked her some way, and she joined. No, this is when I first invited her, like over a year ago, like well over a year ago. How I got her to join in the first place? She wasn't even a part of the group. You know what I'm saying? But I invited her because I posted something to her on a video. It was kind of mean, but not really. You know what I'm saying? When you're reading it, you could sound mean. But that's because you're reading it. You can't tell how I'm saying it, There's a difference between reading something where you're like, you don't even know what you're talking about, and you don't even know what you're talking about, right? There's a huge difference, right?
Yeah, it's hard to tell tone over text.
Yeah, see, exactly. And that's how she joined. It's because she was like, okay, mister. She was like, all right, I'll play your game. You talk about some Discord thing. I don't even know what that is. It's fun times. Nobody knows what the Discord is. It's all good. But yeah, is there anything that you or John wanted to talk about? We have the whole floor to ourselves right now. Might as well put something good on the table if we're going to be by ourselves. Nothing?
I was kinda looking forward to the 70 weeks thing, but Rob didn't join, and I know he was gonna talk about it. So
Well, Rob, maybe I could do it for him a little bit. He was looking into this many, many times, and he's trying to say somehow that these 70 weeks, they are actually ending with like Hadrian or something like that. So like way after 70 AD. Because Titus,
so challenging a preterist position that would say it was ended in 70 AD.
yeah, to an extent, yes, right. Because me and Rob have been exploring this kind of idea for a couple years now. So he's just going out to a further limb, and that's, maybe that's why you might feel a little discouraged. But it's like, dude, don't, like, that's what the whole point of trying to come on here, so you can share your idea, right? You can share your idea so that we can all discuss it together and be like, okay, well, is this a thing? Is this not a thing? Are there reasons for this, reasons for that? I mean, that's the whole point of this whole group, right? To figure things out together, not to be like, I have the correct answer, and if you don't agree with me, you're a stupid idiot head. Like, no, that's not. That's not. If that's how it comes, like, I'll delete everything myself. Don't you worry.
It's still technically a preterist position because it's already been fulfilled, just not a classic preterist take that would say.
Right. See, that's the thing. If you think one thing preterist, people will assume that you're like, oh, well, you believe everything that every preterist always believes. It's like not true necessarily, man. It's like, I could be believing most of the stuff, but I don't necessarily agree with everything that they say. So it is a sticky, a slippery slope, right? Oh, you're a full preterist. Okay, yes, to an extent, but like, what do you mean by that? Right.
Trying to get Rob to come on so we can
do it. Message him, be like, come on, dog. This is your time to shine. Like, this is the whole night was meant for you so that you could share your whole thing. This is the whole point.
Hey, do you want to hear how we interpret 70 weeks?
Absolutely. Get it in before Rob comes, though, so you don't interrupt him.
Nice.
You gotta go.
I'll be on it.
I'm just kidding. just talk. It's fine.
What's your thoughts on the day-year principle?
The day-year principle? No. I mean, I'm not going to say. My thoughts on the day-year principle are that when it says a day. Oh, well, there you go. Amen. Welcome back, brother.
What's your thoughts? What were you gonna say, Albert?
Don't worry about it. Rob just joined.
Still...
But no, I would say a day is as 1,000 years. But basically, to me, that just means that time is irrelevant to God. It doesn't mean that precisely one day is blah blah blah.
Yeah, I kind of agree that verse is more talking like that. But when you apply the day-year principle to the scriptures, it works too well in my eyes for it not to be of some application.
All right, fair enough. Okay, I could see that. Yeah.
Have you ever seen the day-year principle applied to the 70 weeks?
Can't say I have.
It lines perfectly up with the 27 AD when the Messiah is baptized, and then 3.5 years later, halfway through the 70th week, it says he gets cut off from the living, which is exactly when he dies. It fits perfectly.
It fits perfectly, you say. Interesting.
It really does.
Well, now that Brother Rob is here, I don't know.
Say it does fit, but there's a lot of other factors that have to fit exactly too.
Right.
Like
This is
The
exactly what
15th year reign of Tiberius, the 46 years of the temple being built. What else would have to fit? Been a while since I looked at some of those things. But they all have to match. In the 490 years, all have to match. And if they don't all match, then you don't have a winner.
I kind of agree too. I mean, if we can't make the math work for any date, it's all like, what are we doing? Like, we can't get it to work. How do we get it to all work all around for all of us?
Yeah, every single scripture, the math has to add up.
Yeah, the math adds. I'm not sure what you're referring to when you say the 47 years of the temple and then something about a king.
The 15th year of reign of, I believe, Tiberius is when he was baptized, the Bible says.
What does that got to do with the 70 weeks?
That it all has to match. If he doesn't get baptized the 15th year Tiberius reign, and then you have the 70 weeks not matching that, then his baptism doesn't match.
I don't know what you mean though. Like, where in 70 weeks does that have anything to do with Tiberius?
Well, think about it. Okay. You said that his baptism was in 27 AD, right?
Not Tiberius.
Christ. I'm talking about Christ.
Yeah, you said Tiberius. I'm asking, what's the point of telling me about Tiberius? What does that got to do?
Because
with
the Bible says that Christ was baptized in the 15th year of Tiberius' reign.
Okay. See, that's all I was asking.
Where is that? What verse is that?
Let me find it here. It's been a while.
It's been a while. It's been a while.
Oh, now she comes back. Let's see how it is.
Let's Google it
Sorry.
quicker.
She's like a bug to a lantern.
Are you
I'm
really
constantly
sorry?
interrupted. No, my older son just got home and dinner's all in the oven and Nate left and then he came back. I was like, aren't you gonna
We're
have dinner?
talking
No, I
about
gotta take-"
Tiberius, dang it.
Jay's like, oh, I'm not really that hungry right now. I'm just like, what? Here's all this food. And it's like, okay, well,
It looks like it's
Whatever.
Luke 3:1.
Luke?
I'm looking it up. Luke 3:1.
That's what Google says anyhow. I haven't actually went there yet.
Reign of Tiberius Caesar, when Pontius Pilate was governor of Judea. So are you just using historical records then to kind of match what year that actually was in our timeline? Really?
Potentially. I mean, historical records aren't always exactly right, but they seem to be pretty darn good. I always leave room for, to try to, I'm not going to say, hey, historical records are always accurate. So I always try to leave room for margin of error.
So when the 15th year of his reign was, like, how do we know on it in our society, in our timeline, in our calendar? How do we know other than using historical records? I mean, that's really the only way to know, I would think.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's on his particular reign, there's actually some say that it began in 12 AD as a co-reign, and some say it began 14 AD as a straight up reign.
Gotcha. Wait, can you give me those dates again? I'm sorry.
Yeah, 12 AD as a co-reigner, potentially. Some will argue for that, or 14 AD for a straight up reign, as there's no dispute per se.
So
some
we'll just
will argue.
say like 13 in between. So if it was in the 15th year of his reign is when Yeshua, you're saying Yeshua was baptized?
Right.
And does it give the age for when Yeshua was baptized in scriptures? I forget.
He was about 30, so it's hard to say if he was literally 30 or if he was 29. It's hard to say for sure.
So if you add
he was about 30.
13 AD, that would be 28 AD, which makes sense. I mean, if he was born around 0 and he was 28,
He was born around 2 BC.
2 BC. Well, that would make sense then. Yeah. I mean, of course, there's always going to be a couple of years difference just because history and everything can be off. But
Yeah, I'm just
I'm just,
saying it should all come down to T when you got God, the mathematician of all mathematicians. It's all got to come perfectly.
So no,
no, yeah, I'm sure it did. I just think with our records, we might not have the exact rendering. So I always leave room for a couple of years. How does this factor into the 70 weeks though? I'm just trying to spider
yeah,
web
the
everything.
70 weeks, right? So, in my opinion, Rob's going to say a different thing right after me, but that's the whole reason we wanted to have this. Is I would say at the moment that the 70 weeks is already complete because it says 7 in the one, and then 62, and then in the next verse it says, and after the 62, which is after the 7. So 62 plus 7 is 69. And in my opinion, when you say and after 69, to me, that means 70. That means you can't possibly be still in 69. You're in 70 now. I would say that is the 70 week, the 70th week. Rob is going to present a different one because it's going to take us out to Hadrian. It's a completely different calculation. Like you have to just basically put everything that you thought to the side and just.
Doesn't Daniel say, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't have it in front of me, that after the 70th, oh my gosh, I can't talk, 70th, that the Messiah would be cut off, or what does it say exactly?
Right. Well, see,
It says
that's
after the
the thing.
60th.
I'll let
week.
Rob take it over from
Gotcha.
here because yeah, he's got it.
I believe it says after the 62nd week, which includes the 7th week. So it'd be after the 69, like Albert said. However, I don't think it's necessarily even talking about Messiah.
So that's what I was going to ask you, what you guys think that is. Do you think that is Yeshua dying? You think that's something different? What do you guys think that means? Because obviously that's important in how you're.
I would say that's Messiah being cut off, dying, and that's what Matthew would say too. Matthew, who used to come to our group, but what Rob is going to present is different.
I mean, what were you
Go for
thinking if it was 69? Because then he would be cut off, and you have him being cut off in the midst of the week, right, John?
Yeah.
So if you look at it though, where does it say that he's cut off in the midst of the week?
Phone's dead.
I'll find
I
it.
gotta get my laptop.
I'll find it in the middle of the week.
It's Daniel 9:24 through 9:27.
All right. Sorry, I'm working and I'm doing this at the same time, so my mind's all over its place.
I love your multitasking mind. Keep doing it.
It does say that be cut off. Some say killed. Some say destroyed.
Let me look at
Say
the
deserted.
Yeah, it says I'm looking at the Hebrew. After the week 60 and 2 shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself. And that word for cut off is my Wi-Fi would just work for once. To cut off or to cut down, karoth. I'm just looking at the different ways that it's used. Cut off.
Like cut and made,
Hair.
make, fail, you want, covenant, destroyed, chewed, confederate, cutteth, feller, freed, heweth, league, loose, madest, maketh, and making, and perish.
Yeah, it seems like
I
an
mean,
action word.
To me,
like
it
to
seems
actually
like he was there and then he got cut off in the middle of that week, which to me was the 70th week. But that's me thinking that it's Christ in the 70th week.
Well, it'd have to be after 69. So
Right. Well, you did the whole video on the whole date calculation thing, right? So like you are
Yeah, I
allowed
mean-
to share your videos on here because you are the author of them. So don't feel like you're going to get me disqualified in any way, shape, or form. Because if you're here and you're giving permission, you can use your videos.
No, I mean, I don't mind doing that, and I just like, I don't like sharing my screen now anymore and things of that nature, because like
Fair enough. Hey, man.
there's like accidental things that happen.
You don't got to do it. I mean, you have the videos there. You can just post them, and somebody else can play them if that's it.
But even just a screenshot is simple enough. So,
Right. Well, as long as you don't screenshot something, man.
well, that's what I'm saying. I
Your
mean, there's
information, your personal info.
because if you go to 483, which would be the end of 69,
Right.
then that takes you up to because I mean,
Right.
it
So
says
it's
he's cut off after
so
the 69th
after
week. It doesn't
the
say that he's cut off in the
final
middle
week.
of the last week.
Basically, the last final week is where Messiah is what most people, or the people that are with me at least, would say, like Matthew, you would say Messiah is the one cut off there. But what you're suggesting is that maybe it's not Messiah cut off there, it's maybe somebody else.
Right, but I want to address the Messiah thing first, trying to show that can't even be right.
You're saying mathematically the dates, it can't be right. Is that what
Yeah,
yours?
well, yeah, I mean, where does it say that he's crucified in the midst of the week? It doesn't say that anywhere. It says
It doesn't say that
the
he's crucified in the
sacrifice.
midst of the week, but all it says is that he shall be cut off. So that's, again, you're right. Supposing that that's talking about Messiah. You're right.
Yeah, let's just assume it's the
supposition.
Messiah. It says the Messiah will be cut off at the end of the 69 weeks, not in the middle of the week.
No,
It
it
doesn't
does
say
say
that
in the middle,
anywhere.
doesn't it? I don't know.
The next verse says, he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week, and in the midst of the week, he shall cause the sacrifice and oblation to cease. Doesn't
That's
say that he's
in the right. Oh,
died.
okay. So right. I see what you're saying. So in the midst, most people that believe the one way would say that it was Jesus that stopped the oblation and all that to cease. But you're saying that it would be Hadrian or
No, I'm not even saying anything yet. I'm just trying to look at the Messiah. Yeah, I just want to look at other people's view first.
Okay.
It doesn't say that he dies in the midst of the week. It says that he comes to the end at the end of the 69th week. If it was in the middle of the week, it would be more specific. It would say he comes to the end in the middle of the week. But it says the sacrifice and oblations will end in the middle of the week. Not that he's cut off. It says he's cut off at the end of 69 weeks. In the previous verse, those would be two opposing thoughts.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that one more time?
Yeah, so in verse 26, it says that the Messiah will be cut off at the end of 62 weeks and the 7 weeks. So looking at the previous verse 25, so 69 weeks, that's 483 years. If you want to go to the next verse and say that he's cut off in the midst of the week, then that's 486 and a half years. Those are two different total dates.
Gotcha. Nice. You're saying it might sound like, oh yeah, middle of the week, not the middle of the week. What's the big deal? But you're saying it does matter in the span of the timeline. It is significant whether it was the middle.
Yeah, it's a 3.5 year difference. So for one, that doesn't mathematically work out. Two,
well, yeah, it's a huge difference because some of the people say that all this stuff happened before this. They're not even talking about the 70th week. They're saying there's like a gap and all sorts of other stuff. Keep going. Right.
Hello?
Some people say there's a gap and some people say there's no gap. I kind of go with the no gap, but I'm open
Headphone
to look
check.
at some other stuff. You're there, Sandy.
Oh, you can hear me? Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I thought the phrase cut off means to die. Like
That's what
cut off from the earth.
Well, not always.
I do believe it means
It
cut
doesn't
off.
always mean that. Like an army
I
could
do
be
believe
cut
it
off.
means die.
Wait, one at a
It doesn't
time.
mean that the army is going to die. It means most of them might die, but there's still going to be some survivors, maybe.
Well, let's look at it just from the Messiah's perspective. Okay, so there's basically two lines of thought for most people that Artaxerxes gave the decree in his 7th year of reigning.
I think that's Artaxerxes, but you say it however you want.
Artaxerxes is how I like saying it. But
Artaxerxes, I think it's Artaxerxes. But go ahead.
Artaxerxes, okay.
I just wanted everybody to know who we're talking about.
Is everyone familiar with that?
Artaxerxes, the Persian king.
Yes. He's the one that gave the decree.
Right.
Right. So look at the decree though, or look at what it says in Daniel 9:24. Excuse me, 9:25.
You gonna read it for us?
Yeah, I can read it. Let's see. I'll just pick some version here. Let's see. Learn and understand these things, Daniel, from the time that the message went out to go back and rebuild Jerusalem till the time for the chosen king to come will be 7 weeks. Then Jerusalem will be rebuilt. There will be again places for people to meet together in Jerusalem. There will be a ditch around the city to protect it. Jerusalem will be built for 62 weeks, but there will be many troubles during that time. So the message went out to go back and rebuild Jerusalem. Most people just say, oh, it's just the message, but they forget the rebuilding part until the time for the chosen king. So if you just go from the message, that could start your count off wrong too. But if you include the rebuilding and start your count from there, then you're going to get a totally different date.
70 AD.
Gotcha. So you're saying that it's not only when he gives the decree to go back to Jerusalem, but when they actually start rebuilding it.
No, when it's actually rebuilt, totally
Oh,
rebuilt.
totally.
Yeah.
When it's
So
finally
give
done.
the decree and rebuild until the time for the chosen king. So I would argue that's supposed to start your count then. But let's just not even look at my argument from my. I think we can show that the other one's not true as well. So you have 457 or 458 people say to start the count from 490. So if you go to 483 years until the Messiah is cut off, you would have the Messiah being cut off at 27 AD or 26 AD. But most people say, no, he's being baptized then. But that's not what Daniel says. Daniel says he's cut off at the end of the 69 weeks. They make an assumption that it's in the midst of the week just because they say the offerings and sacrifice ended at the cross. So they make that assumption. But it's not even talking about the Messiah, I believe, for one, but that's a total different subject. Trying to think how.
It is relevant though.
It is relevant if that was true, but that's a big assumption.
No,
Because
like
it doesn't even say that.
It's relevant that you think it's not about Yeshua. Who do you think it's about? I mean, you don't have to give a long explanation, but just quickly.
I would say it's Nero, because if you read like some of the older versions or easy reading versions, like the Breton or the Polyglot or easy reading versions, they say it's a future ruler. They don't even say that it's.
Yeah, I would agree that some of those versions change things a lot to the point where it's completely different from what everything else says, which paints a whole different picture.
So let's see. After 62 weeks, the chosen one will be killed. He'll be gone. Then the people of the future leader will destroy the city and the holy place. I mean, I guess depends on what version you read too, is how you're going to interpret it. So it makes a big difference.
Right, but the way I like to do it is I like to take a couple different versions and combine them to show, like, here you go, here's a couple different versions, not just one, right? That's how I like to back myself up. Not that it always works, but that's me.
But if we go back to, let's see, Ezra 4, I think maybe. Let's see. It's Ezra 4, Ezra 6. Let's see.
Am I typing bothering you guys? Is it really loud?
Nah, it's not
Can't
that
even
loud.
hear you. Well, now I can.
Now you can hear it.
It's not that loud though. All right, so Ezra 6:14. It says, so the Jewish leaders continued to build, encouraged by the preaching of Haggai, the prophet, and Zechariah, son of Iddu, I don't know. They had great success. They finished building the temple as the God of Israel commanded, and as Cyrus, Darius, and Artaxerxes, the king of Persia, had ordered. Okay, most people think, because you're talking about like history and like, documenting, most people think that the temple was done being built in 516 BC or something like that. I can't remember the exact date right off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure it's 516 BC. But that makes absolutely no sense. Reason being, okay, so Cyrus, Darius, and how do you say it again, Albert?
Well, I think it's Artaxerxes, but Artaxerxes. You say it however you want to say it. We know who you're talking about.
Artaxerxes. Okay, so Cyrus, Darius, and Artaxerxes give a decree to rebuild it, right? So Cyrus gives it first, then Darius gives it second, then Artaxerxes gives it third in Ezra 6:14. That was the order it came. They all gave a decree to rebuild it. So how in the world do people, history, say that it was done being built under Darius the First in 516 BC when Artaxerxes hadn't even came on the scene yet?
Right. Yeah.
So it's Darius the Second that it was finished.
I would think so, that it has to be Darius too, because there's no way. Again, it says in the scriptures that there's going to be this guy, that guy, and that guy, and it goes like 1, 2, 3, 4. Like there's 3 more dudes that right.
So I think they were studying the Bible, but they just made a simple blunder. They thought, oh, Darius, so we'll just go with that. But when you get to looking at the math and just the natural order of events, there's a bunch of those
in other history too. It's like, oh well, it was this guy, but it's like, well, actually, that's an error too. I just don't. Can people in history make errors? Let me ask all of you that. Can people who are historical figures who wrote things and recorded them, can they make errors? Is that possible? Yeah. Thank you. That's what I thought. I thought, men they're not infallible. They can make mistakes. Even historians can make mistakes. That's why we like to look for multiple sources, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I was kind of saying earlier. Like you can't fully rely on history. I always factor in that there could be, a couple of years difference with what was.
So
this time it's 100-year blunder.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's kind of a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Riley, I also told him that I thought it was odd that Daniel would give a blessing of a prophecy just to tell him, hey, in 70 weeks, some evil man named Nero is going to destroy Jerusalem again. How is that a blessing from heaven?
I think if you look at it, if you go back, it's showing the second coming is coming. So that's why it's a blessing.
So it does have to do with the second coming.
Right. Yeah. It's showing that he comes during that 70 weeks. He comes at the end of the 69 weeks at the beginning of the war. So he comes on the scene at 67 and a quarter AD. Messiah returns. And for a 7-year war. And then in the midst of the week, the fall of 70.75 roughly, however you want to look at that, 3.5 years into the war, then the sacrifices and oblations cease.
Are you saying that the 7-year war is the first Masada, like Masada in there, the 70 whatever, what is it? 74.
Well, the first war lasted from 67 to 74 AD, 7 years.
Okay.
And Ezekiel 39:9 prophesies that it would be a 7-year war.
I'm just
39:9.
If you have
stuff.
that, can somebody read that one if you have it?
Yeah, I'll read it. At that time, people living in the cities of Israel will go out to the fields. They will collect enemies' weapons and burn them. They will burn all the shields, bows and arrows, clubs and spears. They will use weapons as firewood for 7 years.
Okay.
But in the midst of the week, once the literally in the midst of the week,
I'm using my laptop.
the sacrifices and oblations did come to a cease because the temple was destroyed, so they couldn't do them anymore. But they still had been doing them up to that point. And just like Hebrews 8:13
You know what
said, the covenant was fading away.
One of the things I saw all the way back, what I just watched in one of my videos that I asked you to watch, but not necessarily, might not have been clear, but the Antiochus Epiphanes thing, he did, apparently, according to one of the things that I heard. So just according to the abomination of desolation, or whatever that the abomination that makes desolate in that verse. So according to what I heard, you can comment after the pagans, or sorry, Rome, they set up a fortress right basically next to the temple. They set up the fortress, and then also in addition, they over top of the actual altar that was sacrificed to God, they put their own pagan altar over top of it. And then on top of that, that's where they did the whole pig thing, sacrifice. But the point is, from this point forward, if they're occupying the city and the sanctuary, they're occupying it like Occupy Wall Street, like you control it, something like that. They're occupying it, they control it. So basically, they're not letting anybody do anything. So if you can't do the offering and you can't, like basically, the way that it went that I heard was that they were unable to keep the Sabbath, and they were unable to keep any offerings that they had to make for whatever. They couldn't do it because there was actually an illegal thing over top of it preventing them, so that literally nobody could do anything.
Yeah, I just don't see that being him. I see it being Vespasian, because if you read the Brenton in Daniel 11:31, it says, and seed shall spring up out of him, and they shall profane the sanctuary of the strength, and they shall remove the perpetual sacrifice and make the abomination desolate. Now, seeds didn't come out of that Antiphius, however you say his name, but seeds did come out of Vespasian, Titus, and Domitian, and they did profane the sanctuary and destroy the temple. Because Titus and Domitian are Vespasian's sons.
Right. And meanwhile, Titus and Vespasian were destroying the temple. Domitian was back in Rome being the guy.
Mm-hmm. Kind of holding down the fort.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at least that's one of the things we explored in the past, right, Rob? Is we were like, well, he was beast that was and no longer is. Like, that could potentially be Domitian. But again, one of the things we were exploring, which is why we're here tonight, is we're exploring whether or not this goes past 70 AD.
Yeah, I'm not for sure if it goes past 74 AD or not. It may.
Even if it's past 70 AD, though, that proves the hardcore quote-unquote preterists slightly wrong.
I would say it definitely goes to 74 no matter what, to me.
And it's only just a couple years, see? Sometimes they won't even give us just a couple years. They'll be like, nope,
Right.
nope, 70, nope, it's got to be 70. It's like, but come on, what if it's like 5 years later? Come on now.
So they're trying to put it all in a little batch there. But,
Yeah.
Let's see. The other thing is, if you go to you have to wonder, was his was his ministry literally 3.5 years, or was it 1 year as well? I think there's a lot of evidence that it was just 1 year. I can't say for sure this time. There's definitely a lot of compelling evidence that
Yeah,
there
what do you mean
could have
by
been 1 year.
3.5 years? Just kidding.
Right. Because if his ministry is only 1 year, and there's no way he's killed in the midst of the week.
No way he's
The math wouldn't add up. If his ministry is only 1 year, then
No.
being killed in the midst of the week wouldn't work. That whole idea gets thrown out the window.
No, his ministry was definitely more, but it says that well, in my opinion, it says that he would be cut off in the midst. But you're saying, according to what
It doesn't say that though.
It's not
That's
saying
the way
that Messiah Christ will be cut off, is what you're saying. It says that
well,
this
even if
person
you want to say
who's
it's
not
Messiah, it
Christ will
doesn't
be
say
cut off
that.
in the midst, right?
It just says that he'll be cut off at the end of the 69 weeks, is what it says.
After 69.
Mhm.
After is not at the end. All right, look, check it out. If you're going to the circus and you get on the ride,
Mhm.
they're going to give you a refund. Do they give it to you while you're at the end of the ride or after the ride is over?
That's what I'm saying. It would be after the
ride is
ride or
over.
end of the
They don't
ride,
give it
either
to you at
one.
the
It's
end of the
after the ride.
Not at the end. See? Not at the end, but after.
Right. It has
After
to
the
take place.
69.
You could argue that 3.5 years is after, but that's quite a long time.
Okay, well, I mean, I'm just saying, like, in my opinion, my opinion, though. We want to hear what the other people's opinions are. Firefly, everybody else here, John.
Talking over my head a little bit. I'm sure John would know, but he's
Also you. Yes,
busy.
the simple red rose.
Gotcha. He's working or
He's-
playing a game.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. But
No.
he's talking a bit.
Gotcha.
I'm just listening to all your theories. They're running through my brain.
It helps to see it like on paper too.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, obviously, if we had visuals, that would be great. But sorry, our technology is not that great yet. I mean, we could. Anybody's capable of sharing their screen and playing videos as long as they're relevant, but we can only play portions, otherwise we're gonna get flags from YouTube.
Why do you guys think this is really important? Like, what's the main reason that this is important to? Because I got to see the importance of it to.
What is the importance of Daniel's 70 weeks, or what is the importance of the other thing, Daniel 11 or 12?
The importance of, I
To
guess,
me,
the whole.
it shows when his return was.
Yeah, I would say the importance is because then we'll know when he was coming or when the whole thing is supposed to go down. Like, it helps us judge.
It also establishes when the new heavens and new earth were, all that.
Gotcha.
I
could be proven wrong. I'm open.
Because most people think that there's a gap in Daniel, and there's
Right.
A lot of people say
there's never
been.
There's never been a gap per se. And then I think the interesting thing for John, I watched his video and he says there's no gap, which is cool and all. But then Daniel says in the very beginning of this prophecy that he would end sin, bring in everlasting righteousness. Yet I don't think John would say that has happened yet.
Ah, I see.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
So to me, for him to say that there's no gap is contradictory to his thoughts. That's what the Bible calls double-minded. It's when you're thinking two thoughts that are
John is
true.
double-minded or me?
Well, everyone's
I know I might be
double-minded on
double-minded.
something.
I don't even
The
realize.
Bible warns against being that.
Well, what if I do it by accident?
Oh yeah, everyone's double-minded.
Gap thing. Explain the classic Christian view of the whole gap thing.
The classic view is somewhat what John's doing too, is that Christ is going to return in the future and finish the last week or last half week of Daniel's prophecy. And then sin will come to an end, everlasting righteousness will be brought in. They think there's a gap. They're waiting for that last week or last half week of Daniel to be fulfilled.
Right.
They said he was
Basically,
cut off
there's
in the
one
midst
more
of
week
the
to
week.
go.
Yeah.
It was
Or
like,
half a
okay, so it
week,
was
yeah.
like dun, 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 like we're playing The Price is Right, but then there's like a timeout in The Price is Right, and we go to a commercial for half an hour, or
Yeah,
maybe
which
like
that-
500,000 years, and then we come back and we're like, oh, here we go, we're resuming. There we go. Dun, 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 dun. It's week 16
exactly.
now. So now we're picking out 70th week. Oh, here we go. 2,000 years later. Whoop, here we go. But that's not to sound condescending. That's sorry. I was just enacting it out so you could get the, you know what I'm saying? Sorry.
All good.
But that's what we're dealing with. Which one is it? Who's being ridiculous here? Right? I don't know. Long years, short years. Hadrian. I don't know, man. We gotta
You do have
we
two
gotta come
wars, it
together
seems like, in
and
Revelation.
work it all out together, because none of us are gonna come up with it by ourselves. I can assure you that.
Do you think, because there's two wars in Revelation, are you kind of still waiting for a future war then?
You talking to me or Albert?
I
think he's
don't
talking
think
to you.
Albert's, yeah, talking to you.
Can you rephrase your question in a different way?
Yeah, so I mean, with being a historicist, do you see that there was one war fulfilled in 70 AD, and then that there's still a future war going to happen on Earth?
Are you talking about like Gog and Magog, or?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there's got to be some sort of verses that you guys are gonna present as not having yet happened, right? That's gonna happen. That's obvious. Those are the
Yeah.
verses.
Think that I forget what chapter Revelation that's in. I think it's in one of the 20s or 19 maybe. I don't think
I
that's
think
happened.
right. So okay, so
Right.
saying something that hasn't happened. All right.
So if
Oh,
you
yeah.
look at I mean, when you think about like the language in Revelation when it talks about horses and chariots, do you think that that's just metaphorical, and that that can apply to tanks and helicopters and jets these days?
Uh, first you're talking about specific-
That's a loaded question if I ever heard one. All right.
I mean, it seems like it would have to.
do you have a
For it to be-
specific verse you're asking about?
Let me see if I can pull up one, because I think let's see.
Why is that a loaded question? I think it's a very simple question.
You don't have
The
black
answer-
hawk. You don't have
It's
The
black
answer is no.
helicopters in your arsenal in Egypt. What are you talking about?
It's just
The
like my
answer
answer
is-
is changed depending on what verse you're talking about. I want to see the actual verse you're.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's see.
If I ever tell you
Pick
about
out which
something
one
and
might
I don't
be
provide a
pretty
verse,
easy.
like,
Okay. How about Revelation 14:20? The grapes were squeezed in the winepress outside the city. Blood flowed out of the winepress. It rose high as the heads of horses for a distance of 200 miles.
Yeah, I mean, I think that being the vision been given to John, obviously understand, this type of. But I don't think it's going to talk about stuff that he doesn't even know. Or I think it's literal. I mean, obviously, I don't think there's going to be some huge wine press that blood's pouring out of. So.
Okay, let me read a different one. Okay, so come together. This is Revelation 19. That other one was in 14. Come together so you can eat the bodies of the rulers and the army commanders and the famous men. Come to eat the bodies of the horses and their riders and the bodies of all the people, free, slaves, small and great.
who is it talking to when it says come eat all that stuff?
He's talking to
Or-
the, what's that?
This is about the whore of Babylon.
He's talking to vultures,
He's
birds.
talking about both.
He
Okay.
is.
Who
He's
are the
literally
vultures?
talking. He's talking about birds to come eat all these dead bodies.
Okay, well, why is he telling these vultures to do this?
And then
Who-
in the verse I read before, it was that the bodies would be so high, they would be to the heads of horses for a distance
Right.
of 200 miles.
I
And
think,
if you read history,
yeah,
they literally lined up the bodies outside the city for 200 miles, horses high, that high, stacked them up, and then the vultures came and ate the bodies. So it literally happened just like it was predicted.
Yeah,
but
that's
when did it happen? When? When did that happen?
That happened 67 through 74 AD.
Okay. Through 74. So yeah, interesting.
wait, what happened in 74 AD?
From 67 to 74 AD was the 7-year war. That's when all these bodies were laid outside the city for 200 miles, and they just
Yeah.
stacked them on top of each other, and then the birds came and ate them.
I guess, I mean, that's a great point. I think it's interesting. And I guess the issue in my mind with that preterist, all that stuff is, you can see where certain verses like this, it seems like, oh yeah, that could definitely be about the 7-year war. But then when you lay out the whole book of Revelation, I just think there's so many prophecies prior to this. And it's like, how does all of this fit in before 70 AD? Like, I would love to see someone draw out like an
Right.
entire
So can you give like an example or two of like something that couldn't possibly? Because that's exactly what me and Rob are looking for. Things that don't
Oh,
fit into 70 AD. That's the whole thing for tonight. Like that's what we're trying to do.
I'm not saying it can't. I've just never had a preterist sit down with me verse by verse and explain how every single
Mind if
prophecy.
you prove me
So-
wrong? Well, what verses shall we go through then? Verse by verse? Where? You can
Well,
do
I think that'd be definitely something. I'm starting to build a website again. I had a bunch of videos on Revelation way back when, but
I mean,
there
yeah,
are
I'd love
some
that.
websites that do have verse by verse. I mean,
I asked
it
that a
pretty
while
much.
back in
Mhm.
the chat, and Andrew gave me some stuff, but it still didn't go verse by verse necessarily. Like,
Right, but
Mhm.
again, see, like even if it's me or Andrew or anybody, we're not going to have an answer for everything, and there's where the leeway comes in. And
Yeah, and
what
that's
It's
fine.
pretty much
That's- I was looking
explainable for a lot
that's
of
what
it.
me and
though.
Rob are trying to exploit at the moment. We're trying to be like, okay, we're trying to shake up everybody's world a little bit. Be like, all right, well, Andrew, you're a staunch, straight up full preterist, like hammer to the pedal to the metal, like full force. But like, what if we presented this, that, or the other thing? Trying to shake up the feathers a little bit, you know? What if it was this guy? What if it was that guy?
Guys-
Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? That's all we're trying to do.
What do you guys think the beast of the earth is?
The what?
The beast of the earth.
The beast of which earth? Which
But I
which
don't think
earth
it
do you
says
reckon?
Earth, does it?
Hold on. Maybe I'm thinking beast
Well,
of
no.
It does
I know
say
who
I
she's
saw
talking
another
about.
beast coming up out of the earth,
Correct, yeah. She's talking
and
about
he
that
had
one as
2
opposed
horns
to the-
like a
as
lamb,
opposed
but
to
he
the
talked
beast
like a
that comes up
dragon.
out of the sea.
No,
right?
I don't think Revelation. I think I'm thinking of Daniel.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Oh, gotcha. But in Revelation 13:11, it says, "Then I saw another beast coming out of the earth. He had 2 horns like a lamb, but he talked like a dragon." To me, that's talking about Vespasian because he had 2 sons,
Mm-hmm.
Titus and Domitian. And if you look at it, the first beast was Nero. If you back up to the beginning of 13, then I saw a beast coming up out of the sea. It had 10 horns and 7 heads. There's a crown on each of its horns. It had evil name written on each head. This beast looked like a leopard with feet like a bear. It had mouth like a lion. Mouth. The dragon gave the beast all its power, and its throne and great authority. One of the heads of the beast looked like it had been wounded and killed, but the death wound was healed, and all the people of the world were amazed and followed the beast. So the first beast, I'll keep reading here a little bit. People worshiped the dragon because they had given power to the beast, And they also worshiped the beast. They asked, who is as powerful as the beast? Who can make war against it? The beast was allowed to boast and speak insults against God. It was allowed to use its power for 42 months. So this
The
beast
The
was
beast was allowed
Rome,
to
but
use it.
Nero was in charge. And he warred for 3.5 years before he took his life. And then it says, the beast opened its mouth to insult God, to insult his name, the place where he lives, and all those who live in heaven. It was given power to make war against God's holy people and defeat them. It was given power over every tribe, race of people, language, and nation. Everyone living on earth would worship the beast. These are all the people since the beginning of the world whose names are not written in the Lamb's book of life. The Lamb was the one who was killed. Anyone who hears these things should listen to this. Whoever is to be a prisoner will be a prisoner. Whoever is to be killed with a sword will be killed with a sword. This means that God's holy people must have patience and faith. And this is where it comes to the second beast. Then I saw another beast coming up out of the earth. It had 2 horns like a lamb, but he talked like a dragon.
And you're
This
saying
beast,
the
good.
what's his name?
Nero was the first beast, and then Vespasian was the second beast.
And he has 2 sons. And that's what you
Right,
think
yeah.
the
2 horns like a lamb. Yeah, I can show if I keep reading it. It may all make a lot of sense.
all right, go for it.
And that was earlier in Daniel where it said he had seeds too. I talked about that earlier tonight. It says, this beast stood before the first beast and used the same power the first beast had. He used this power to make everyone living on earth worship the first beast. The first beast was the one that had the death wound that was healed. So this was the year of the 4 emperors. So Nero takes his own life. Then you have Otho, Vitellius, or excuse me, Galba, Otho, and Vitellius that were plucked up by the roots, Daniel 7:8 or 7:28, one of the 2 there. But so I'll continue reading on in Revelation 13:13. The second beast did great miracles. He even made fire come down from heaven to earth while people are watching. And if you read the history of Vespasian, he did do that. Then this second beast fooled the people living on earth by using miracles that he had been given the power to do for the first beast. For he ordered people to make a statue to honor the first beast, and that statue was made of Nero, the great Colossus, and that one was wounded by the sword but did not die. The second beast was given power to give life to the statue of the first beast. Then the statue could speak and order all those who did not worship it to be killed. So they had to worship that statue of Nero or Colossus. And it says the second beast also forced all the people, small, great, rich, and poor, free and slave, to have a mark put on their right hand or on their forehead. I believe that's a mistranslation. It should be a mark of his right hand or of his forehead. And so they stamped, and if you look up that word there, it is used as himself or him predominantly. So there is a mistranslation. Almost every Bible does that, but it should be his right hand or his forehead. And so if you look at if you look at a coin, the Roman coin, it had Nero's forehead on one side, and then on the other side it had him holding up his right hand.
That's interesting. Good point.
And so this coin, no one could buy or sell without this mark. This was the mark, the name of the beast, for this number. And then it says, anyone who has this understanding can find the meaning of the beast number. This requires wisdom. This number is the number of man is 666. And the interesting thing about 666 is, so Nero Caesar adds up to 666, but so does Ronald Wilson Reagan, or tons of popes' names add up to 666. But some Bibles,
a lot of things. Yeah.
Some Bibles translated as 616 in Latin, the way the numbers came out. And only Nero Caesar in Latin adds up to 616. Ronald Wilson Reagan and some of the other popes' names don't add up to 616 in Latin. So it just makes a lot of sense. And then also there was a coin with Christ's face on it, and that's why they were using Christ's coin. And if they were caught using that, they would be killed. They had to use the Nero coin, otherwise they weren't allowed to buy or sell.
Yeah, I have heard that before.
And I can
I
put a
like
couple
I said,
pictures of the coins if you'd like.
Preterist makes a lot of good points. The way my mind works, I like to see a layout of everything and like look at it all as a whole.
Mhm.
And I haven't found a resource that has been able to break it
Only
all down.
people that are gonna do that are us. We have to make our own diagrams, which we can do.
Yeah, you guys
Yeah, I
should
don't think there is a very like solid resource out there. There used to be one that wasn't too bad, but I think things disappear over time on the internet too and stuff like that. Let's see. And then if you go to let's see. What do you think, Sandy?
Sandy.
Well, you know my answer. I can't
Oh,
explain
yeah.
it.
No, I think what you're saying makes sense because you got to look at Revelation 14:13, the next chapter. It says, then I heard a voice from heaven. It said, write this from now on. There are great blessings for those who belong to the Lord when they die. The Spirit says, yes, that is true. They'll rest from their hard work. What they have done will stay with them. So you have here the destruction of the temple in 70 AD, but then it says, you'll be blessed who belong to the Lord when they die from here on after. So I think, he's always coming or he's always available, I think might be a different word, but similar in meaning.
So you just think that the new heavens and new earth is like a spiritual, symbolic thing?
I think the new heavens and new earth is the new covenant.
Gotcha. Is there like something specific? What exactly led you to that conclusion that the heavens mean the covenant?
I mean, if you look at what the heavens and earth are called in the Old Testament, it's called Israel. And so now anyone can be Israel. But before, it was more of a bloodline type thing. There was still opportunity for people to join, but it was made more evident through Christ that anyone could come to
Right.
to
Because you
know
always
the
had
Father
people
now.
like Rahab that have joined, even though they definitely were not Israelites. They got joined in for various reasons.
Right. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Okay, I've never heard that before. It's interesting. I have to see how that fits with all the verses that talk about the new heaven and new earth.
Are we? I hope we're not overwhelming anybody.
Oh no, I'm just tired. I've just had a long day, so I took a deep breath. I didn't mean to make it sound like I'm
Oh, good.
annoyed.
So you do have a copybook. You have a place where you're writing all these things down so you don't forget.
Yeah, it's called my brain.
Sweet. Amen. Some people don't need to write it down. You know what I'm saying?
I have like a file folder in my head. I'm filing it away.
I always got in trouble at school. They're like, "How dare you? I didn't see your work." It's like, I don't need to do the work. I can just write up here. They're like, "No, you can't. You cheated because I can't do it." Well, there you go. I feel
Right.
you. Don't need to write it down. I can just
Certain things I need to write down, like numbers and other stuff. I don't know how to explain it, but I can retain it pretty well.
What's up? That's how it should be.
And what I find interesting is that Isaiah pretty much is the same thing as Revelation.
Isaiah is which part of Isaiah?
Mm,
There's a lot in
All of it?
not all of it, but some parts of it are called Little Revelation. But I mean, it pretty much tells the same story.
It does. It tells you the same story. So is John just basically reading Isaiah, but like in a different way? Because he's like, well, I don't have anything better to do. I'm stuck on this island.
I think it was because it was to the churches. It was a reminder to the churches.
Well, yeah, he wrote it
At that
in the
time.
island supposedly to the churches, but what if it
Wait.
was on horseback?
I have a question. You just
Okay,
John.
I just want to say this. Look, do you think when Revelation talks about the stars of heaven falling to the earth, that that's a literal event? Because
No.
as a futurist, and when I'd read the book of Revelation,
I hope
it's
they
like,
don't
yeah,
hit
all
me in
this
the head.
stuff's coming upon the earth. All this stuff's supposed to come upon the earth, right? But how do you said no?
I don't.
I
I
was saying
What
I
do you-
really hope that I don't get hit in the head by a star, because if I do, like, be like, sorry guys, I can't continue the hangout. I got hit in the head by a star that fell on my head. Sorry guys.
Well, falling stars, we see them shooting stars. They don't fall on your head usually. Although, did you hear about the one that actually came through the atmosphere in Russia? Busted.
Oh, did you hear about the
windows
one
out
that
of
was fake because
buildings
it was
and-
actually a bomb? Wait, what? Sorry. What?
Yeah.
Dang.
Then there's that.
I already had it.
What?
That was dark.
So, yeah. Anyway, I forget where I was going here.
You were talking about stars falling from the heavens, as per
Yeah,
the
right. Like the
scriptures.
dragon, he came and he swept his tail, and a third of the stars fell to the earth. You think there's a literal dragon in heaven that's swishing his tail around? I mean, this is nonsense.
There's constellations
we-
and that are dragons.
People really do though, Sandy. Some people really think a literal thing is going to come up out of. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Ah, the women's agree. Ah.
So,
I think there was
So,
literally fallen stars, but they were angels.
Oh,
Right, because there's that whole other story, right?
but you still
Mhm.
don't think they're literal stars. You think they're angelic beings. So still,
Right.
even they're literal stars falling.
Right.
and I don't
But
know how
I
to
think it
explain
is told, the
angels.
story is told in the stars. If you look at the stars and the constellations, there's literally a woman clothed with the sun, a moon at her feet.
There, that's where I wanted to
That's
go to
literal.
help her understand some things.
And then there's literally a dragon in the, or a snake or a serpent, whatever you want to call it, in the sky that you can see every year. And the story's told over and over every year.
It's really fascinating.
So yeah, if you look at the Virgo, she's clothed with the sun and the moon is at her feet every fall, every year. And at the top of her is Leo. And Leo is composed of 12 stars or 12 crowns, however you want to look at that. And then
So
below
that's
her
the Revelation.
is Revelation 12.
Mhm.
Yes.
And then below her, a little bit to the left of her, is a big serpent with Opius or Opicius. I can't remember how you say that word. She is holding the snake, and gonna crush. And then he's gonna crush the snake's head. Which one crushes the snake's head? I can't remember what's constellation.
So I have a question. So
So
the
I was
how
trying to answer one of your earlier questions.
Oh, go for it.
Oh, well, write down your other questions so you don't forget it. Just come on now.
I can't ever finish. But
What are
like,
you doing this
okay, I'll
on
just be
purpose?
quiet.
Go, answer the question, damn it.
There's too many questions and not enough answers.
No, hurry, come on now. Come on, you're gonna interrupt me for
What's
the
your
next.
what's your what's
That,
your
that's what
question?
Rob
Yeah, before we
always tells me.
forget.
He's like, Sandy, that's a lot of questions. It's like, yeah, I know. This is my braino. This is my braino on questions.
All right, fair
He's
enough.
like, boom, 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 boom.
All right, now you have to let her finish whatever the other question was.
Oh, I'll file it away, Sandy. I didn't mean to interrupt you if you were still trying to share.
No, I did that.
Oh no, because what Rob's saying is, so he's saying, if I get what he's saying right, you can tell me if I interpret this right. But so what I think Rob's saying and showing, and why we look at the events on the earth and how they coincide with what, these prophecies of, the temple and the destruction and, all this literal earthly events. You can't really deny that it's it's not a coincidence, right? It seems to be physical, fulfilled physically, right? And then now he's talking about the stars and the constellations. And again, these constellations are in the sky. We have Virgo, we have Draco, we have, all these constellations. And we have the Bethlehem star too, right? The star that the wise men followed from the east, that brought them to where Jesus was born and all that. So these aren't literal, like, yes. And my point is that God's using literal earthly events, literal things in the sky. He's showing us things that we can see, we can historically know, have experienced, we can see, touch, smell, right? Physical. And he's using those things to speak to us about a supernatural thing, a higher truth. Come up here, he tells John, right? Come up here. So, and these physical earthly things and the stars that we see in the heaven, and oh yeah, they're named Draco and all that. Yes, because God in his goodness, right? He doesn't expect us to just, hey, I'm going to tell you this and you just believe it. No, and we don't even know, he doesn't even know how to tell us. Like Jesus said, if I speak to you of earthly things and you don't understand me, how am I supposed to speak to you of heavenly things? You can't even grasp what I'm talking about when I talk to you about earthly things. It's like we can't even comprehend that. And that's what we're doing, sitting here always trying to comprehend what kings, what events, what's the 69 weeks, what's the 70 weeks, all of these things.
But how are
And
we
we
going to
can-
figure everything out if we don't sit here and talk about it and do all these things?
Well, that's what I'm getting to.
That's what we're doing.
We could, okay, let's just say, like what she asked earlier was, why are we looking at all this? What's the end result? What's the conclusion? Or what's the purpose of going through and pulling and ripping all this apart? Like what's the goal? The goal is, here's what I see, is if we were able to go, okay, yep, this happened and 69 weeks and then he was cut off and then this and that, and we could line it all up compared to the physical, literal events that happen on the earth. Okay, great. Do we just like applaud ourselves, shake our hands and there, we figured it out? And the answer is no. Even if we were to do that, we wouldn't have figured out nothing. Absolutely zero of what Jesus came to try to teach us. He didn't come here to try to teach us how to interpret the book of Revelation that's written in symbols so that we could compare it to a historical Josephus or historical events that happened. Why? There's no point in that.
Concur.
There. So we need to get off of that trail, is what I'm saying. I'm saying we need to get off of the earthly, physical, oh, this is talking about this constellation, no, it's not. No, it's not. And the Revelation 12 woman I think, and I'm not perfect. These are just things I've come to see. The Revelation 12 woman, I believe, represents Israel. Okay, she's Israel, right? And she has this sun. She's clothed in the sun, and I think, like Rob's talking about these celestial things in the sky. I believe this was an actual literal took place in the sky. Even like you can download some of these star maps and stuff that people and maybe go back and actually see it actually happening in the literal sky. But again, Jesus isn't trying to tell us something that literally happened in the sky, but he's going to put it in some strange coded way in the book of Revelation so that we can, unwind the tape and go, oh, it was an actual thing that literally happened in the sky. No, he's using the literal event to explain to us a spiritual truth. And here's the truth. She's clothed in the sun. Well, the sun is Jesus, right? He's the morning sun. She has a crown of 12 stars upon her head. I think those are what Jesus says, the 12 stars in his hand. I think they're what does he say they are? They're not the churches. The 12 stars are the angels of the 7 churches. And for me, I go with Albert, like an angel is like the pastor of that church, the messenger. Like I think John the Baptist, he was an angel. It actually says he was a messenger of God. He was prophesied that he would come and that he would do these things, and he would be the one to prepare the way of the Lord. Now, why is he an angel? I think he's an angel because he hears the voice of God and he does God's will. Now, when he dies, does he go off to heaven and become a literal, like, spiritual being, angel in heaven? Sure. I don't see, I think we become like the angels. I don't know. I'm just saying, I haven't figured out like the whole angel thing, but the Revelation 12 woman isn't just trying to tell us that this is something that happened in the sky, but there's like the moon, and Andrew did a good job. Like he took me through showing me that the moon actually is a representation. It's a symbol of the old covenant. So if you look at the Revelation 12 woman, she has the moon under her feet. Why? Because she's conquered it. This woman is standing above, like the old covenant's done for, right? It's passing away. It's beneath her feet. When it's a figure of speech, when we say, oh, that's been there, done that, right? So she's been there, done that. She's now standing on the moon and she's about to give birth. Well, what does Israel give birth to? Israel gives birth to the church. No, to the church.
Oh, okay. I was
Messiah, Jesus has already been born. He was born in Bethlehem. There's a whole story about Jesus. There was a star that led the wise men. It took them a year and a half to travel from the east to get to Jerusalem. And that's another thing about that woman, is in her womb. You can go back and see that a literal event that took place in the celestial skies was this, what they call the king star, the Melech. There was a star that came into her womb, or what would look like her womb in the stars, right? And it came in and went out. And there's a show on the Bethlehem Star and how it speaks of Jesus. And it's all very prophetic. And these wise men they somehow knew to watch for this event.
Yeah, I don't know how they did that. Did you see the Marco Polo thing?
Because the wise men were stargazers. They used the stars for a lot of prophetic things. They believed the stars spoke to them, which I believe they did, because God even says, look, he's written his story is written in the stars. Like you can see his story,
so that you're without excuse, as it were.
Yeah. And it's the one thing that the Bible says, like, this is the one language, it's a universal language that we all can witness the stars. And we actually agree on what to name the stars too. But I think a lot of the ancient names, have maybe been lost, but like we still have things like Virgo, right? I think these are important
Yeah,
So
why are they named
it's not
Virgo the
wrong that
Virgin
they,
and Leo the Lion and such? Yeah, who knows? Maybe it's
right.
tell us a message. I don't know.
Yeah, it definitely is. But it's a sign. It's something we can physically look at, and then we can go, oh, this is a sign that the Messiah is coming. The thing that's been prophesied in the Bible, it's about to take place. Or like the wise men thought, it did take place because it took them. They had to make a caravan, right? They have to bring their animals for their food and their milk and their, so when they traveled, they didn't have, airplanes, so they had to just load up. So this was a huge, big deal. A caravan. It takes them a year and a half. Like imagine
Question.
trying to bring a year and a half worth of
Apparently,
supplies on a road
Did,
trip.
how did
What?
that
What?
how did they know these were non-Israelites? How did they know that Israel, the nation of Israel, was going to give birth to the Messiah? That's what I want to know.
Well,
Right? Is that right?
it
The
was
three
in their
magi. That's what
scriptures.
you're talking about, right?
Yeah, it's like a miracle that, or just the gospel
Right.
that are
No.
spread to
So
all the
no,
nations.
it's interesting because I have no idea, but the only thing that I've seen on it, you should look to the Marco Polo tale. It's weird because it has to do with that Tartarius silliness, in a way.
Well, I've heard stories that actually Daniel, who was very wealthy, because he was like second in command or whatever, that actually Daniel left instructions and money and the frankincense, myrrh, and gold. That's what I've heard, and it's plausible. It's a plausible story. We don't know how. I mean, does that matter? It was written in their scriptures. They had the Bible, right? Or did they not have the Bible written in
No.
Daniel's time?
Well, if by the Bible you mean like a little fragment of the first part, yeah, sure.
That's a
They
good
didn't have
question. How
any,
did they know, or why did they even follow the star? It's kind of interesting.
Well, no, see, so you have to read
That's
the
what they
Marco
were, wise
Polo
men. They were
account.
stargazers.
No, yeah, you had to do they followed something. It's in the Stargazing. It's in the thing. They knew. Read Marco Polo. You'll find out.
So
And you'll hear
anyway,
a very
so
peculiar
the
story
woman,
after that.
Israel, is giving birth. The old covenant, which is represented by the moon, it's under her feet, right? Because a new thing is being birthed, right? What did Jesus come to do? It's in the Old Testament that God said, he never wanted bulls and goats and rams and sacrifices of animals or to sacrifice your own children or any of that. It's a stench to his nostrils. And besides, he says there is no amount of blood of bulls and goats and rams that could ever possibly take away your sins. And he says, what building? What are you going to build for me, David? What building? I'm the creator of heaven and earth and everything that's in it. How are you going to confine me to a room, right? So he has to somehow find a way to get through man's mind so that we can understand. And so he says, okay, Moses, look, I tried to come down on the top of Mount Sinai, a dark, thick cloud, thunder, lightning, right? Everybody was frightened. Oh, never let us hear the voice of God again. Okay, Moses. So Moses becomes a representative of God, right? He's a foreshadow of, the Christ that would come, right? He writes down the 10 Commandments and all of that. And he tells Moses, look, they haven't rejected you, Moses. They're rejecting me, right? They never wanted to hear the voice of God again because it's frightening, right? Like it's scary. God is massive, right? Thunderous, frightening. And they tell Moses, whatever you say, we will do it. But he told Moses, tell the people. He said, that's fine. This is what we're going to do. You're going to build a tabernacle. And you're going to build it exactly like this. Why? Because the Bible tells us it's a foreshadow. It's a type. It's something we can look at in the physical realm so that we can recognize the Messiah when he comes. Because going through the Hebrew roots thing, you learn that the feasts are what's the word? The Moedim, the Moedim in Hebrew language or whatever. It actually means meeting times. Meeting times. So he's actually having them rehearse every year. They're doing all these certain things because it's a rehearsal of, so that when Christ comes, you can see the fulfillment of all of those feasts fulfilled in one man, Jesus Christ. And I will meet you there. That's in the Holy of Holies. He always tells Moses, right? Do all these things and I will meet you there. That's above the mercy seat, right? When Jesus was crucified, his blood and his water poured out. And if you ever go watch Ron Wyatt, you can see that when the rocks rent in the earthquake, that his blood and his water from his body gushed out, went down through those cracks, and the mercy seat's there underneath that mountain, and his blood and water poured out there. And it says that the water, the blood, and the spirit, they testify on earth. And so I believe Ron Wyatt's whole story about that. But irregardless, the point is, his blood and water poured out on the earth. This is where we see the testimony in the physical world that what God said he would do, he did. And he said, I will build myself a church. I'm going to build myself not made with hands, right? Not going to be a physical building made with bricks or a tent. We are that church. Nobody built my body. No man built my body. No man built your body. We are now the temple. We're the temple. We're his body on earth. That's what the Revelation 12 woman is, just giving birth to the church. And the 12 stars above her head, I don't know, maybe that's the 12 disciples. It's a whole picture. And the star, the king star that comes into what you would call the womb of the virgin, right? This is what the men in the east seen. It takes them a year and a half to get there. You notice when they got to Bethlehem or Jerusalem, they asked the king, where's the babe, born king of the Jews? And they find him. Did my microphone die? Everybody went to sleep.
I can hear you. I'm listening.
No, your microphone didn't die. Nope.
Oh, well, you guys either talk over top of me or you get so quiet. I think I'm just like,
Shush. Continue your
nobody's
story,
here.
woman. Stop it.
My mind distracted myself.
Yeah, see what happened? That's what happened to me earlier when I was talking to myself.
It's all good.
Yeah.
Carry
And then
on with your
Revelation
story.
6 talks about the stars of heaven that fell into the earth. It says, even as a fig tree casteth her untimely figs when she is shaken of a mighty wind.
Now, why would a
if you
fig
go
tree
back,
do that?
if you have the Blue Letter Bible app, I can't encourage it enough. You put in words like, the fig tree, and then look from Genesis to Revelation and read all of these, single verses. Just go through them and read about the fig tree. And when you're done looking at all these verses, you're like, oh my gosh. You'll understand that the fig tree that Jesus cursed when he walked up to it is because from far off, you could see there were leaves on it. So what it was a deceptive tree. And when Jesus got to it, the figs were there were no figs, or the figs weren't ripe or something. So it was like so he cursed the tree and said, "Let no man eat of you again." He cursed it, and the next day they come by and they're like, "Oh, look, Lord, the tree that you cursed, it's withered up and died." Yeah,
Hey,
because he's cursing the tree that was in the garden in the beginning, which was a fig tree. Because when Adam and Eve covered themselves, they used what? Oh yeah, fig leaves. They used the leaves of the tree to cover themselves, to hide their nakedness and their shame from the same tree that they ate of, that which God told them, thou shalt not eat, which was a tree of what? Fruit? No, it was a tree of knowledge. How do you eat knowledge? See, they ate a knowledge. They consumed a knowledge. And Jesus says in the New Testament, look, eat my flesh, drink my blood. Is he telling us to go literally take a bite out of him? No. This is figurative language. This is why it's not a literal serpent. It's not a literal, it's not a pomegranate, it's not an apple. It's none of that. It's expressing a truth. And then we see when Jesus comes, he curses that fig tree. Let no man eat of you forever. Now,
Did I hear a hey?
let me hear, hey.
Yeah, I don't know. By the way, if you want to interrupt, be sure to interrupt. You got to do it with authority. Be like, no, hold on, I have a question. You have to.
My cat was knocking everything over, so I was yelling at him really quick.
You have to yell very loudly. Sometimes it's hard for some of us to hear. We might keep talking.
You still there, Rob? You hanging in with us?
There we go. I think he's still
Right.
there.
How you doing, Rob?
Yeah, I'm still here. Just was making a little dinner.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
What's for
nice.
dinner?
Dinner.
All
All right, we don't just
pickles
sauce.
and ketchup.
Oh, just some bacon. I'm just kidding.
I love.
Yeah, you ate leftovers.
I said I love
What you
pickles.
said? Oh, pickles. Gotcha.
Yeah, and it says in Mark, it says, and the stars of heaven shall fall, and the powers that are in heaven shall be shaken. Now, if you go back to the Old Testament, and this is what Albert kept like saying over the always, like the high places, that's the heavenly realm. They always put their, they wanted to build the Tower of Babel, was, let us build ourselves a tower to reach up into the heavens. Right? This is what man does. They always put their structures, their buildings, and their authority is always on the top of a hill, right? And the Bible refers to the rulers of, like, I don't know what you call them back then, but the rulers of like Israel, he called them stars, right? They're referred to as stars. So if we stay with that analogy, we come to the New Testament, we see that the stars of heaven shall fall. Yeah. The old covenant and all the rulers of that they fell. They fell from where? From their position of authority. Why? Because God's doing a new thing. He's doing a new thing. We are going to be the temple. We're the new church that he's building, not a building made with hands. You see? So yeah, they are the ones who fell, right? He even calls them vipers. You're a brood of vipers, you hypocrites, you snakes, you brood of vipers, because they were supposed to be the keepers of God's word. And he was always telling them, look, you know all these things, but you've missed the boat big time, right? They fell. They crucified him. That's how bad they fell. They fell so bad from what the truth was and denying it, or just not wanting a Messiah because they didn't want to give up their gold in their temple. Jesus would say to them, you say that they should swear, you tell the people to swear by the gold in the temple. He says, but what's higher? Is it the gold in the temple or, the temple itself? Right? Because they always had everything backwards. They were more concerned with their wealth, their power. They were on a power trip. And that's what Jesus fought in the desert too, by the way. Everything he fought in the desert is the same thing that man still does today. They want to rule over each other. They want to be rich. They want the wealth of the world, and they want to rule the world. It's always about power, control, and money. That's basically what Jesus fought in the desert, all his temptations. So they fell, and the powers that are in heaven shall be shaken. Yeah, they were. It didn't have to be that way. They could have done something different. They could have recognized and accepted their Savior, and then I guess the Bible would have been different. But God knows, He knew, He knows the future. He knew how things were going to go, and so this is the way He did it. He slowly, from the beginning of time, He's slowly taking mankind from where were they in the beginning? The hearts and minds and deeds of man was all evil all the time. That's in the beginning. And we come all the way through. He slowly brings them through, like, how to treat women, how to treat your slaves. Why? Because it's inherent. This serpent thing, this sin, this flesh always wants to rule over everybody else. So they enslave mankind, literally. They treat their women like dirt. They just put themselves first about everything. They war, they kill, they murder, all for what? For the love of money. Like the love of money, it's the root of all evil. Yeah.
Oh wow, it's
But
midnight.
man is so twisted from the beginning and so much in darkness
Yeah.
that God has to
that
bring
is.
them slowly out of the darkness and teach them what's right and what's wrong. So then we have the law, the giving of the law. Thou shalt, not do this and thou shalt do that. And then the law actually is an accuser, right? Because none of us can keep the law perfectly. If we could have, Christ didn't need to come, right? Because it would be something attainable. But the law represents the ultimate righteousness, which we aren't, because we're flesh and blood, and no flesh and blood shall inherit the kingdom. Flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom. We're not God. We're not going to, I will ascend to, above the throne. I will be like the Most High God, and I will do all these things. Basically, what the serpent was tempting Eve with in the beginning. Well, did God really say, well, no, he just knows that. No, what's really happening here, Eve, is that God doesn't want you to eat that fruit because he knows that, because it's a knowledge. And he knows in the day that you eat the fruit, you will be like him, knowing good and evil. See, that's the lie. It's not a lie, though. Like Albert says, he points out it's not a lie. It's the truth. It's the truth that as soon as you eat from that other knowledge, we get confused, right? Why? Because we live on the earth. Because it's inherent. We have a choice to choose this day whom we will serve. See, I've placed before you blessing and cursing, blessings and curses. Now you choose. They chose to eat the fruit of the knowledge that intertwines good and evil in our flesh. We always want more cake, more drugs, more feel good, more sex, more drugs, more rock and roll. That's so God slowly has to take humanity from being rotten to the core to where we can see the light and understand who God is and his purpose, so that we can be changed inherently, right? Like we have to put on the mind of Christ, put on the full armor of God, learn how to, instead of fighting physical wars and mass murdering each other with weapons of mass destruction. I mean, it started out with bows and arrows, and it started out with a rock.
That's why it says we wrestle not. We're not fighting much. No, we're wrestling. We wrestle not against these things, because we're not wrestling. That doesn't mean we're wrestling angels, supernatural beings. It means we're wrestling against forces that are unseen. You can't. It's like taking on a corporation or a government.
We wrestle against. It's almost like we wrestle against an ideology. We're wrestling against a false knowledge.
Yes.
If we knew the truth, that God is light and in him is no darkness at all, and we went to that light, right, and sought out that light, then we wouldn't pick up weapons of warfare to murder our brother. We wouldn't have that jealousy and envy and hatred and all those things, and want their money and, all for all the reasons that we war, right? We wouldn't have that, because we would have something much, much better. We wouldn't have any need for that. But we don't get it. And so long as there's still other evil people around that, encourage us and, hey, and it's not even other people, it's in yourself, right? Like, I could just do this one thing and, I could just rob the bank and I wouldn't have to worry about my financial problems anymore. Yeah, probably. But then I could spend, however many
How
years
many
in
people I
prison.
watch the videos for that for, and it doesn't pan out very well? Get it?
No,
Pan out?
it doesn't ever pan out.
It doesn't pan out. Better off hunting gold in the hills,
Yeah. But until all of mankind comes to the knowledge, like Jesus said, look, the light came into the world, but men didn't receive the light because they loved the darkness. Why? Because their deeds were evil. Go back to the garden. What did Adam and Eve do? Right? Well, instead of running to God, going, "Oh, God, I ate the fruit you told me not to eat. What do I do? Forgive me. Help." Instead, they hid from God. They covered their nakedness. They do all the things like a kid would try to do when he's in trouble. Anybody who murders somebody, you want to go hide the
What did
body,
Cain?
go
Yeah, look
hide
at
the
Cain.
evidence.
What did Cain
Yeah.
do? Instead of going to God and be like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I mashed him." He went up and he didn't say anything like that. He was just like, "Oh, what am I, his keeper? Like, I don't know where he is. You go find him."
Yeah, this shows how Cain was so full of disdain for his brother. Like, where was the love in his heart for his brother? This is the jealousy thing, because it's like, somebody has a nicer front yard than you. Oh my gosh, so you want to egg their house, so that you don't look so bad compared to how nice their place looks. No, shame on you. If your place looks like crap and their place looks, then fix your place up. Then fix your place up. And if you don't want to, well, then accept yourself for who you are and stop playing a competition game all the time. Enjoy the fact that the neighbor's got a beautiful yard for you to look at. And go,
Can't
wow,
do that
that's
because
so
they're
nice.
humans. They can't do
Yeah,
it.
we're
They
humans.
can't do it.
Because that was Cain's problem, right? God said, what? Don't, if you bring a gift to the altar or whatever, you will be accepted too. Like, why hate your brother? It's like hating the kid in school who studies math and does his homework at night, brings and gets A's, and then when the test day comes, he aces it, and all the other kids want to hate him. Why do they want to hate him? Because he worked for that A, because he studied it, because he was born with maybe better brain cells. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't matter. We're jealous, envious. We're all these things.
Yeah.
Well, good night.
Oh, well, that's good night for her. I mean, the rest of us still here, but yeah, we can wrap it up. Y'all want?
No, I'm just saying I would say good night to her because she's already gone.
She's already gone.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, if she listens to this, which she won't, and if she does, I'll be impressed. Then, if she does listen to it, she'll know, because she has to react to today's link with a duck.
A dog.
A duck. If she doesn't do it with a duck, then I'll know she didn't do it. Don't tell her. Don't tell her to fast forward either. Don't tell her the secret.
Okay. I was going to go tell her right now.
No. See?
I don't even know the answer.
Don't tell her to react to anything with a duck. If she reacts to
It's a
anything,
duck.
don't do it. It's cheating. She has to listen to this, and then she can do it. See? Then I'll know that she listened to this.
Duck, duck, go.
Yeah, exactly. You can all react with ducks, but nobody said nobody said you could. That's not really cheating, but all right.
So I want to get to the points where, like, because you can't deny that Jesus said, they asked him, what are the signs of your coming?
Right.
And, what are the signs of the end of the world, or what,
Right.
however you
I
want to
love
say,
it
the
when
age.
if I was Jesus, I would have
Because-
been like, I love it when you ask me 6 questions at the same time. Let me answer your first question first. But they're not going to write that in the book, right? They'll be like, nope, he didn't say that. What did he say? You tell me.
I mean, I think he did ask. I think they did ask like 3 questions, and I think Jesus answered them all. But I think we don't break
He
them
had
down
someone else
properly.
be like, people, one at a time, because he can't say that, because that would, otherwise they would record that, right? They'd be
I
like,
mean,
nope, Jesus said, like, oh, people, right? He'd be like, nope, Jesus
it's
is getting angry.
it's pretty clear. It's pretty clear when he says, when you see the armies surrounding you, like, he's telling them of earthly things. I don't doubt that. But is he saying that it's because he's the one that's going to come back in 40 years and do it? No, he's
That's
not saying that.
Not
He,
necessarily.
but,
no.
but he knows the operation of mankind. He knows how mankind works. And that's just how God knew that they would reject the Messiah. He knew that.
Right.
That's why he gave all the sign of Jonah. No sign shall be given it, this wicked generation, except the sign of Jonah. So then why do we say, oh, but 40 years later he came back and here's the sign? It's 40 years later and the sign is the Roman army coming in and destroying the temple. No, Jesus is just saying as a fact, because God has always said, who can tell you the future before it happens? Right? When they set up all their fires and, we're going to call down our God of, our fish God or our God of, whatever, wood and hay and stone and stubble, and he's like, okay, how about this? I'm going to tell you what's going to happen before it ever happens. Now, if your gods can do that, go ahead, tell me what's going to happen. Nobody can do that. Nobody can tell the future and what's going to happen 500 years from now to a T, right? Only God can do that. Does that mean he made it happen? Well, ultimately, I always say, yeah, nothing happens except that God obviously allowed it, right? He knew it would happen as soon as he created Adam and Eve, because it says the lamb was slain from the foundation of the earth. Why? Why does he have Jesus or a lamb, the manifestation of God be slain from the foundation of the earth? Well, because there's two trees. It's the only way to make us. Otherwise, we're just robots and we're not even consciously aware that we're awake. He had to give us free will. That's
What
why
if
he
we
says,
had
look, I
free
placed
will,
before
and
you.
then the free will of some people made it so that they could take over the free will of all other people by secret subversion, to the point where everything got so ridiculous that it would be almost impossible for you to tell
To have
anything
your
from
own
anything.
thoughts.
And it almost seemed like you
They're
couldn't
doing that,
actually
aren't they,
figure it
Albert?
all out, but you actually could figure it out, but only if you paid attention.
They do
Oh,
control
wait, is that
our
what we're
minds
doing
and our
right
thoughts.
now? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Oh,
That's what commercials do. Every time I see a commercial come on, it's like, do you suffer from headaches? Do you suffer from sleep disorders? Do you suffer from heart attack? Do you know somebody who suffers? Try tremezidol. It may cause insomnia, heart attack,
I
and
love
even
all
death.
those
But go ahead
commercials.
and
They're
try it
always like
anyway.
you like frolicking in the
They're
backyard.
always feeding us. They're always feeding
Try
us
Imprisnica.
fear.
All sorts of drug weird names.
And at the same time, they make all these drugs that they can't make from nature. They have to make it out of
It's a
some
copy of
chemical.
nature, but
It's a copy of nature because you cannot patent nature, and they want to get rich. And in order to get rich, they need to convince you to take their poison, right? And then not tell you about the
yeah.
good natural things that God has put on the earth, let alone the fact that, if you just believe God, you could be healed, right? Like, what's the difference? Jesus said, what's the difference if I say your sins are forgiven or rise up and walk? What's the difference?
Yep.
Well, if my sins are forgiven, why am I walking around sick? Well, I'll tell you why. Something in me doesn't fully believe. I am so brainwashed. I live, we surround ourselves. We're surrounded by brainwashing. We're surrounded by the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil. And we buy into this crap. We buy into the lie that, the Holy Spirit doesn't do this anymore. Nope. Yeah, he doesn't need to go about healing. If we lived in a state,
He doesn't do it
of
anymore because we have
truth,
cell phones and TVs and radio.
yeah.
And
Like, why do we
and
need
movie
Google and
stars.
Siri and, man.
And Elon Musk. We also have Elon, by the way. Big shout out to Elon. Love you.
Yeah, put your trust in Elon.
I will, because he's awesome.
He's all we got right now. he might be the Antichrist in 10 years, but today we're going to put our trust in him.
Stop
It's like, what's going on? Is this the lesser of two evils?
Oh
Like,
my goodness.
you know, maybe Trump and Elon and General Flynn and all these white hats, all these good
That'd be
guys.
great.
You know, they're saving us from the WEF, you know, wanting to control the world and
Yeah.
make us all live in 15-minute cities, right? Like you can only go 15 minutes from your home to go to work and go shop, and you don't need to go anywhere else. But we're going to have mansions on every beautiful location on the planet. Nancy Pelosi and Obama and everybody else, right? They're going to live in mansions, fly around in jets, and you know they're going to do whatever they want, and we're going to be the little peons eating bugs.
That's what they would love. They would love that.
Yeah, they would love that.
That would be great. Right?
This is why we have to get smarter. We need to rise up as the body of Christ and get our heads out of the earth. Our heads are supposed to be up in the clouds.
Are you
He's our
telling me that
head.
I'm an ostrich?
I mean, I
All
feel
right.
like an ostrich. I
Good
feel
night,
like I
Rob.
live in a dark place with my head stuck in the sand most days. And then God comes along and he's like, pulls my head
Night
out.
ostriches.
Good night, buddy. Yeah.
Oh, good night, Rob. Are you going to
Night.
bed?
In a little bit here. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do.
He's going to bed for now. Maybe he'll be back later. Ostrich. Yeah, my head is in the ground for right now, but if you scare me, I might pull my head out of the ground. Yeah.
Right. Night.
Night.
See, there you go. You were saying something about ostriches and
Who knows?
flamingos?
I think if the first Earth age
First
was
thing,
went, yeah, like the old, like from the beginning, right, to
like,
from what we can know of man's time on Earth, they
wouldn't that
say,
be like before Noah,
yeah,
Adam? Okay.
yeah, like we don't see history going back. Like the oldest known history I think we've ever had proof of is around that 6,000 year mark, right? Am I right, or is that what you believe?
Yeah, according to records and all that jazz. You know.
Yeah. Now, if it's true that we had a beginning, like on a calendar, and it's been that many years, we would say that Christ manifested, or you know, he was born on the earth, whatever they say, AD, you know, 1, 2, 3, somewhere around the 0 mark, right? So we have AD and BC. So how many
Yeah.
years had it been? Because I'm thinking it was about 4,000, the year 4,000.
Well, that's the
wasn't it?
whole fun part about the whole mystery of the whole Earth, right? It's like, wait, why are we even doing that? Like, what kind of retarded people sit there and just like, you know what we should do? We should start with the number really high, and then we should count backwards all the way to a number. Then we should reverse it, and it'll mess with everybody in the future. Be a great idea.
Yeah,
dude.
exactly.
It's like,
I'm
what?
so glad you said that. I'm like, how did they
You
know
know
to
what?
start out
Like,
at
why
5?
are we doing?
How
Why
did
are we
they know
counting
to start
down
out
and then
at
we're
day?
going up? Like, what are we doing here? Why didn't we count from 1 to begin with and keep it
How-
going?
how
Why
did-
did we? Okay.
Yeah, how did they know to start at Dave? Let's just start it at let's call it the year 5,629. How's that? Everybody good with that? Okay, let's go.
6,729.
Oh, what are we gonna do when
All right.
what are we gonna do when we get to 0? When we get to 0, we're just gonna make up another lie and say, well, the Messiah came, and then we're gonna start counting forward.
There we go. It's a great idea. There he is.
Like-
He comes right when we precisely predicted it, isn't it?
Or did they wait
We're not
until
mo-
0 and then went, you know what? Let's go back and change the calendar,
No
and
mocking.
let's just call it backwards. I mean, I don't know. That's the calendar thing is weird too, isn't it?
Well,
So-
no,
it's
that's
so
what I'm saying.
strange.
The calendar, like, what? There's multiple different calendars. We're on the what? The Gregorian or the Julian? No, yeah, the Gregorian now after the Julian, and the Julian was after the whatever, and that was Julian is Julius Caesar. So again, you do
Yeah.
have that one verse that says he will think to change the times and seasons, times and something.
I
He
think
shall
it's
think
season.
change them.
Yeah.
I don't know if that means
Yeah.
he actually changed them or if he thought he was going to change them, but he didn't get to. No, me and Rob are trying to come up with reasons, but yeah.
Well, I forgot where I was going anyway with that, but it's like, okay, so if Jesus came on the fourth day, and let's say it was 4,000 years from, let's say if Adam was created and it was 4,000, I don't know, 4,300 years later, Christ comes on the earth. So that would say we had over 4,000 years of before Christ. And some of that time period.
Possibly 1,000 more. Yeah.
Yeah. So now we're under a new covenant, which I don't know exactly when did they say the old covenant like started, like with the Moses. Was that around like 1,500 or 2,000? So it's almost like it's almost like they had the old covenant for 2,000 years.
Well,
then Christ shows
there was
up.
the whole time before the new covenant. Oh, sorry,
Uh-huh.
before the old covenant, which was Noah
Just a
and all that.
rainbow.
They had
Yeah.
something, but that was different.
Uh-huh.
Maybe, right? Then you had when
Yeah.
Moses came along. That's when the first John, and then we have the second John covenant.
Yeah.
That's what I mean by John covenant.
So if it took 4,000 years to bring humanity from being all evil thoughts and deeds, in the beginning, why he sent the flood. So if he's coming from there, and it's 4,000 some years later, I mean, we've come a long ways in some aspects, like I don't know, life. There's a lot of good things that have been created in the world, you know what I mean, that preserve life, and homes, and automobile. I don't know if it's better or worse, but like slavery, like it's weird because it's like, well, here America, when was America discovered? Wait, if the planet's been around 4,000 years, I was like, how did America only just get discovered? No, obviously there were people here, before the conquistadors showed up or whatever. It's like before the Vikings, before Columbia sailed the ocean blue. These are all just recent stories, recent history for America. They want to hide all the other, even the Indians, right? Like, where's their story?
The great mound builders. Did they build the mound? Did they build the mound, or did they get wrecked? I don't know. You tell me.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. What came first? Why are all the hills raised? RAZED.
Why is everything seeming like? Tell me, where's all the forests? Like the big forest. I know we have the Congo and those are pretty big, but like, where's all the big old trees, right? Where are they all at? The old ones I'm talking about, we used to find in America, the ones they have pictures of, where there's like 12 dudes standing in front of one tree trunk.
Yeah, we have.
Where are all those? Where'd they all go? Oh, they chopped them all down. They probably did.
We have a giant. We have a giant tree. We have a giant tree. The base of a giant tree, and it's at a rest area off of the freeway. So when you get off the freeway, stop at the rest stop or rest area, and that tree is hollowed out inside. They moved it there, to preserve it, and you can literally drive a truck through it. You could drive a Chevy pickup truck through it. It's
a
huge.
big redwood, no doubt.
Yeah, and there's not many of those around anymore.
And those trees used to be all over, but where'd they all go? They're all chopped down. But really, you're going to tell me that all the people just so happened in all the areas all over the place chopped down magically all the big trees? They found every single last one of them? Holy. You're really good at finding big trees.
Yeah, and where's all these old growth buildings they built with all these massive old trees? Where's even those now?
Yeah, there you go. What happened with all
Jay said I live in one.
There you
And
go.
yeah, there's probably truth to that actually.
Jason?
Jay.
Jason? Jason? No, I know. I'm just kidding. Jason and Onias, the whole temple thing. That was in the videos that you didn't watch. You said you didn't watch them. So.
I don't know. I guess I was just trying to figure out like if it took 4,000 years to get us to see to the point where God thought we could understand and recognize when he sent his son, right?
Right.
Well, so, and if we're under a new covenant, a new system, a new temple, a new order of being or whatever, understanding, because I don't think God's ever changed. I think he's had to bring us as a whole to the point where we could even recognize.
Roll one and I'll get out of your way.
Yeah. Then we've only been under this system for a couple thousand years.
A couple thousand? How many?
I mean, if we go on the dates they tell us that Christ came and our current calendar.
Do you count?
Why
do you
haven't I
count
tried to change a
Do you
calendar
count
again
the extra
anyway?
days? Do you count the extra days in the lineage after the flood? Do you count those extra days? Years, rather? Do you count those extra years on all those people after the flood?
The 1,000 years you're talking about?
So after the flood, there's like a group of people like right after the flood,
Mhm.
and each of those have like a date, but then there's another version of that same text which also has the same thing, but it says 100 is the same thing. So it's basically the difference between saying somebody had a baby at 64 years old versus having a baby at 164 years old, because there's a 100-year difference in most of these cases. Which, if you add them in, actually puts the Earth, according to creation, closer to 7,000 years old, not 6. It's well over 6 now at this point. Because there's an extra 100 years on each of the people right after the flood, up to a certain point, and then the last person of the series has an extra 50. So there's basically an extra 650 years, basically, I believe, in history.
And I actually found someplace in the New Testament, and I can't find it again. And they say something to the effect of, they talk about their forefathers or something who were on the other side of the flood. It says on the other side of the flood.
Right. Okay.
It's some kind of wording like that. And I've
Yeah.
searched, I came across it once and then I didn't write it down, or I did, and I don't know where it is, but I was like, I've tried to find that scripture again. I'm like, I didn't dream it, did I? Because I thought it was really interesting.
I think I know of that one too, but I don't know which one it is.
Yeah, where is that? Because I'm pretty sure I read that. I was like, wait,
Anybody listening,
have I never read this before?
Link it in the comments.
So even
If anybody even gets this far, I'll be
even
surprised.
2,000 years ago, they accepted. I mean, it's in the Bible that they accepted that there was a time before the flood. You know, our forefathers, you know, they said on the other side of the flood. I don't know that they ever referred to them as like having come through the flood, but you know, besides who we know for sure, Noah.
The ancestors on the other side of the flood would have been people that were before, as far as I can tell, Noah and his wife and the children, obviously.
No, those who were on the other side of the flood.
Your ancestors. You could have. I mean, everybody has ancestors on the other side of the flood, right?
You know what I think?
Right?
I think when the Bible says that the flood killed all flesh, doesn't mean all flesh.
No, it did,
Just
because
like,
obviously, Dude Man didn't die. Noah didn't die.
well,
Nor did
it says,
nor did all the stuff he brought with him. All kinds of.
no, but I know, but it says that he destroyed all flesh except, save 8, right? Save the 8. But here's what I'm thinking is like, okay, there could have been a world flood, but does every single solitary person died? Or because not always when the Bible says all, does it always mean all, every single one? I think the story, we could look at it and say he's showing us
So you're saying
that
when
the ones when the ones who came through the flood, for sure, Noah and his family, well, why did they make it through the flood? Well, because he heard God, he believed God, and then he acted on what he heard, right? So he walked with God, right? He was whatever, he was upright, perfect in his generations, whatnot.
all that jazz.
So yeah. And I think the Bible is concerned with this lineage, right? It's like, I could say,
Is it concerned with the lineage to the point where it might be concerned with some people breeding with angels? No?
I don't know about all that.
Okay, that's what I thought. Good. Quash that
But
one.
but he might use the word all flesh, save the
Yeah.
8, because
But you're talking about human flesh, because why would you talk about like starfish flesh? Doesn't make any sense. Right.
or cricket flesh.
Right?
I mean,
Or what?
what about
kind
a cricket?
cricket flesh? Yeah. Why not cricket flesh? Exactly. No, it's going to be human flesh, I tell you.
But if he's wanting us to get an analogy out of the story, and he's wanting us to compare, to look at the story through a spiritual understanding, what we would come to the conclusion is like that he came through the waters, right? And water, I suppose, just like the people when God came on the mountain, right? Like anybody who touched the mountain, right? They were going to die instantly. Like stay back, right? Like lightning can be a source of energy, but it can also kill you.
Yeah. Hey, man, if there
You
was
know,
some sort of
like water,
electromagnetic anomaly and somebody was like, no, like, you don't understand, stay back, it might electrocute you.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a Tesla coil. Oh, sorry, I didn't realize.
yeah, like nuclear power today. A lot of people are anti-nuclear power because it can, if there's a problem like Fukushima or like Western
Yeah, if
Washington.
you have a problem, it will wreck you. It will destroy lots of stuff. So good.
Yeah, we see the devastation and effects of like Chernobyl and whatnot. But if everything ran perfectly, right? If we didn't have any rods melting, it is a great source of energy, clean energy, right? It's good, clean energy, powerful energy. But that same powerful energy can also be devastating in the wrong hands. So the flood waters, maybe we're to understand that the waters are going to do what waters do, right? Flood's going to do what flood does. The question is, do you drown in that flood, or do you rise up on top of that flood? Do you come through and survive it physically, or are you lost and drowned in it? Because it's the same water that brought Noah and his family. Yeah. Like, I
But I
don't
don't
think the
think it's-
Bible's concerned with, or even necessarily wants us to think that every single animal and bird, because like, here's the thing, like,
It doesn't say that every single animal and bird.
right. Well, it does say,
First
all flesh.
off, it says all the beasts and all that jazz. It doesn't say anything about any fish or any creature in the water being on there, because why would they need to? They're already in the water. And you know that salt water and fresh water don't mix, so one floats in the other. That's how they both survive. They don't need an ark. But everybody else, yeah, they get on the ark. Insects, not on the ark, because again,
Well, did Noah
you're gonna have
float around?
dead mats of
Did
floating
did
stuff
Noah?
all over the place, and
How
insects
did
they can live in dead mats of floating stuff. However,
the
people cannot live on dead mats of floating stuff. They will eventually run out of food and die.
Yeah, because they talk about like, certain animals that you only find in Australia, right? Like, they're not on other continents. And
True.
it's like, well, then, you've read those articles, I'm sure, where, well, how did these animals get there? Oh, they floated on a
Good question.
raft. They, all this stuff. It's like, well, Noah had all the animals. Like, he had every single animal. There was no animals that were going to survive except for the ones on the ark, right? So Noah and his kids, as soon as they got off, he's like, okay, son, your job is you take this koala bear.
Yeah, no, what I
and,
need you to do, mate, is I need you to take the giraffe over there, okay? Because God wants him in Africa, all right?
Yeah, all right.
And I need you to take the walrus. Sorry, mate, you got to go all the way up. Sorry.
Yeah. Like,
why are we Australian right now? I don't know. Sorry. But no, that's the thing.
where I
don't
live,
know
they say is the best.
Who gave him those orders? Who decided? I don't know what kind of accent Noah had.
It's been thousands of years, and yet they say that right here in the Skagit is like where there's like 5 different native salmon that this is where they spawn and run and all that, and nowhere else on the earth. It's like, well, that's strange.
Nowhere else that
Why?
you know of. That's like a joke probably between the animals. Or like the humans, they only think that we breed here. We know English. They don't think we know English, but we do. How funny would that be? My bird knows it. The one downstairs. Have you ever heard Star, the bird?
Yeah. Is that the green bird?
Yeah, the Amazon. Yeah.
That laughs like me or mocks me when I laugh. I'm like, and it's
oh
like,
my god, oh my god, all the time. It mimics phone calls. It's like, oh, you would never know. Oh, a bear? What? It's just the most ridiculous things this bird says.
Is that because its tongue's clipped? Do they have to clip their tongues to talk or something?
No,
I read that.
it's an Amazon parrot. That's what it is. They just talk. They know how to. If I tried, I give her peanuts and stuff, whatever. But like, if I put my finger
They
in there,
mimic
he
sounds
will,
like
he will
like a telephone
destroy my
ringing.
finger. He would destroy my finger in a second. Like, he doesn't anybody.
Isn't it crazy? Like, it wasn't too long ago. Like, phones when they rang would go like, "Brrrring," and now they could be like literally any tune you want.
You can
They
have
could
it
just be like
anything.
a clip of a favorite
You
song.
could literally have it be a clip of this very hangout that we just were on right now. You could.
Yeah. That's funny. It could be a commercial.
It could be My Pillow.
2 all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on it. Hello?
Oh, yeah. See, oh, hello. Hello. Oh, hello.
What's
hello.
that? A commercial? No, that's my phone.
No, it's my ringtone. Sorry. See, then you're just messing with people. Could you imagine if your ringtone said like, "Oh yeah, hello, can I call you?" Like, it's just really loud on purpose. Can I call you back? That's your ringtone, so that when you actually answer it, they thought you already had the phone call because, right? Then you answer it and you're like, "Oh, hello."
Like, if everybody
Nobody would be expecting.
if even if every like Christian, quote unquote, Christian or believer in Jesus or believer in the Bible or the Word of God or God, whatever, the Buddha included, whatever,
Right.
right? People that understand and live their lives on that higher plane of peace, right? Like even the Jehovah Witnesses, no,
Right.
like they don't even want you if you are in the military. Like they don't believe in that, right?
Yeah. Why
If
would they keep
everybody,
it secret?
if everybody, if most people thought that way and acted like Jesus, right? Went about, turning the other cheek, and if somebody forces you to go a mile, then go with them too. If they demand your cloak, give them your tunic also. If everybody that really believed in that actually did those things, you know what I mean? Like, and we could like lay hands on the sick and they would recover, or, just be living as peaceful people. I don't mean like go sit your butt on a pole 20 feet up in the air for the rest of your life. Okay. Like,
Yeah,
what's
no,
that
it's
accomplishing? I don't,
not
I don't even
really.
get that. I don't,
No.
I don't, I don't get a lot of the things like that, but you know what I'm saying? Like if people generally did what the Bible said, like don't go to court. Why do you want to go to court with where unbelievers are going to judge you, right? Like you should be brothers. You all should be figuring this out amongst yourselves and coming to peaceable agreements, not taking your problems and bringing them before secular court system. Like that's in the Bible, right? That's in the New Testament. Like if we actually lived our lives that way, we could we could we literally could change the world. Like we could get things rolling on, instead of evil seemingly, being in control and running the world. You know what I mean? All the whatever people might want to say is unfairness or whatnot. Because it's the unfairness in the world that turns people. They just give up, right? It's like, you know what? I work 10 hours a day. I work my butt off. Maybe they work outdoors and they work in the weather. They work, in the ice, in the snow, and they're making just enough to, take care of their family and maybe have a retirement.
How much
You know
do
what I
you
mean?
think a
But
scientist that studies volcanoes makes, especially if they have to get like really up in the volcano, like all up in there, like you got to get the lava without getting lava on?
yeah,
How much do you think that person makes?
I mean,
I
it
bet you
depends.
they
If,
don't
if
make a
George
lot.
Soros hired him, if
I
he was
bet
working for
you they
Hillary,
don't
or
make a lot.
if he's working for China, or he's working for the
Yeah, I don't know why
universities,
we.
or he's working for Verizon. Depends. like like people are crooked, right? They just, we want to get this drug passed. We want to get this drug legalized through the
Oh yeah,
FDA.
for
So
sure.
hey, why don't we take this CEO of this corporation, this
Yeah.
Pfizer corporation, and why don't you go work for the Food and Drug Administration, and then for 5 years
Oh
get your
yeah.
foot in there, and then pass these
Yeah,
laws
why not?
and
Let's just
approve
make
these
a panel
approve
and
these
put all of our
drugs.
buddies on it, and then we'll just put all their buddies on. We'll just have like a buddy system, right? Buddy
Yeah,
system.
that's what it is. They got a crooked buddy system going on, and it doesn't just happen in our government, but it happens in our local jobs, at our everyday pizza joint, right? It's like, I don't care if it's your local hospital. Their money is controlling people. Look what everybody did during the whole COVID thing. Everybody, all these doctors and all these nurses and all these workers, they for the most part kept their mouths shut, and they did it because they wanted the money. I got to have the money. I got to feed my kids. I got to pay my mortgage. It's sad. It's true. And I get it, but still, we
That's a
think we're
Metallica
weak.
song.
Sing it.
No, it is sad but true. And that is a mentality. So
Yeah. And I'm not blaming anybody. I'm not saying I wouldn't have done the same thing. I probably would have, because it's like, yeah, you want to stick something in my arm I don't agree with? Yeah, well, my kids come first and I got to feed them. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, reality is harsh that way. Like, you know what I mean? Like, where's our faith? Where's our justice? You know? I don't know.
I mean, if you're gonna let your yard get to the point where some of these yards have got, I could show you a YouTube channel where they just like for free fix people's front yards. But basically, they're so left to the wilderness after years, like 20, 30 years. You'd be surprised how much damage 30 years could do to a house if it's unattended.
Yeah.
It's quite impressive.
Yep. It could just start with a small little leak with a little drop getting in. The next thing you know, you've got $10,000 roof job to do. And if you don't, well, then the damage just continues to spread and mold takes over. And next thing you know, your house is condemned. And yeah.
It's actually quite miraculous how fast nature can take a house down. Like 50 years, if nobody's there, like it's done. It's gone. It's 100%.
Yeah, the house across the street. It's only been a few years since that guy. Well, and he didn't even leave it empty. He actually somehow miraculously got some really poor people who couldn't qualify for anything better to move into his trash hole heap of a disgust, and collected rent from him for a while. But yeah, the ivy and not the ivy, what is that? Oh, it grows like a weed, but it's literally like climbing up over his roof and
the ivy, like poison ivy?
It's not ivy though, it's
Oak, poison oak, sumac, poison something, or no?
something like sumac. It has like like here
it
mostly
poison or
you'll find
not?
it.
No.
I don't know.
All right.
It twists around. It like if there's a blade of grass, it will wind its vine, like strangle everything. It just twists
Okay, so it's
right
not
around
poison
everything.
necessarily. It's just something that'll destroy all your grass.
And here, it's usually white. The flowers that come on it are usually white, but they can come in different colors.
Irish moss?
Blue. No.
It's not Irish moss? Okay. Because
My sister actually grows it in her backyard because she's in a hot state, and so it doesn't take over down there because there's not enough rain and it's too hot. So they can grow it like an annual, but up here it's like no. I don't remember what it's called, but yeah, it's like
Bummer.
look at what is that stuff called?
I'm building a forest, so I'm building a food forest. So if you can contribute anything, that'd be super cool. All right, fine. Unless you have anything else, I'm going to end it. No? Okay. I'm going to end it.
Okay, it was bugging me. It's called Morning Glory. Morning Glory. It's also called hedge bindweed, but we don't call it that here.
I got morning glory. Yeah, it's a flower. Yeah, divine flower. Yeah.
Herbaceous vine that twines around other vegetation or fences for support. Large white trumpet-shaped flowers.
True.
But they're not just white. I've seen them in other colors.
They could be pink, blue, white. They could be purple. They could be all those colors. Red.
And
You ain't gonna see a
I mean,
green
they're kind of
one.
pretty, but they're
You see a
obnoxious.
green one. Come see me if you have a green one. And also hide it from everybody. 'Cause don't reckon there's one of those. There might be a black. Don't reckon there's a green.
Blackberries
Could
will
be-
just keep growing too. They'll grow right over
Could
your
be
house if
wrong.
you let them.
True. That could be wrong.
And the animals. Yeah, the mice,
Oh,
the
yeah.
rats, all the
Well, that's the
critters.
thing. I
They'll move in and
underestimate
take over too.
while I'm making my forest. I underestimated the creatures of the forest. I didn't expect that I would have such a mad rush for the plants that I freshly introduced. So now I'm going to have a new take. I'm going to introduce many plants at the same time, not just one, because you put one in, you're going to have a multitude of animals checking it out. Like, right? So you would be worried about maybe like something like a fox or something coming, or a deer, maybe checking out your plant, right? But you're not thinking about slugs and stuff like that. That's usually what destroys your plant. So, so yeah.
Yeah, they can gobble up a lot. A slug,
Yeah.
man.
So you're just
They're like
giving
little
stuff.
munchers. They come out at night and they're just like,
Yeah.
wee,
Look,
munch, munch,
oh,
munch,
who
munch.
ate it? You blame it on a rabbit or something, but it's actually slugs. Oops.
Yeah, I ain't got nothing else.
Yeah, I don't think I do either. So we're gonna end it, right? So we're gonna end it. I'm just gonna. You have 30 seconds if there's anything else comes to mind. Don't time me. If Zach
29,
is listening, if Zach is
28,
listening to this, yeah,
27.
I'm like, that's oh dear. No, the countdown already stopped. 30 seconds. Oh jeez. Whoa. Time goes slower when you're going this way. All right. Good night, my friends. Crazy
Good night.
hangout. I don't know what to call it, but you'll find out. Good
Peace,
night.
peace.